Chapter 1093. Rumble. Ling Xiao fell out of the clouds with a single palm strike, from Paragon True Dragon. Boundless godly might surged out like lightning from the 9 heavens. Apparently, Paragon True Dragon also cultivated the War God incantation. Of the 3 arts left behind by the War God Scarlet Dragon, Paragon True Dragon had only acquired the War God incantation. However, he had cultivated it to a consummate level, and used it to corroborate his Tao and achieve godly ascension. That was why Paragon True Dragon had slapped Ling Xiao out of the sky. Whoosh! Ling Xiao blurred into motion, stopping himself from falling. Boundless god power surged out behind him as the King Heaven Devourer Cauldron shattered Paragon True Dragon's palm strike and carried him up into the air. The King Heaven Devourer Cauldron? Perhaps you've forgotten, but I also know the Heaven Devouring secret magic. Black godlight erupted from Paragon True Dragon as the King Heaven Devourer Cauldron appeared behind him, pulsing with an ancient and mysterious aura that seemed capable of devouring anything and everything. Paragon True Dragon unleashed a palm strike that caused heaven and earth to tremble violently. Even the godlight in the sky was sucked in by the palm strike, which then shot toward Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's eyes glittered. Paragon True Dragon had cultivated the heaven-devouring secret magic to the level of the King Heaven Devourer Cauldron. Unfortunately, he didn't have the complete technique, otherwise he would have already formed a heaven-devouring god sea. Rumble. The void shook violently as Ling Xiao spun like a top, shooting up into the sky in an instant. His body emitted dazzling lightning, and each lightning bolt was as thick as a mountain range, crashing down on the Supreme True Dragon. The collision between the sky-devouring secret technique was even more terrifying. It was as if all the divine lights in the sky had exploded, and the surrounding void had completely collapsed. The Supreme True Dragon's body shone brightly as he shattered the lightning in the sky with a single palm strike. Then he charged towards Ling Xiao, going against the heavens. Paragon True Dragon also knows the Heaven Devourer secret magic? According to the legends, the Heaven Devourer secret magic is Paragon Heaven Devourer's most powerful ability. Ling Xiao is in danger. That's right. Supposedly, 10,000 years ago, Paragon Heaven Devourer was able to suppress Paragon True Dragon. His Heaven Devourer secret magic is so domineering that it can devour heaven and earth. Will Ling Xiao be able to block it? Everyone's eyes revealed a trace of worry. Supreme True Dragon unleashed the sky-devouring secret technique, causing everyone's eyes to widen in shock and worry. Ling Xiao's invincible physique, 10,000 dragons god-slaying technique, and even the heaven-devouring secret skill were all countered by Supreme True Dragon. In addition, Supreme True Dragon's cultivation level was higher than Ling Xiao's. This battle was probably going to end in disaster. Ling Xiao, use your 7 limits divine technique. This is your only chance. Supreme True Dragon said coldly as a cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. The 7 limits divine technique of swallowing heaven and destroying earth was extremely powerful. It was created by Ling Xiao in his previous life, and contained the power to destroy everything. The Supreme True Dragon had a deep impression of it. Therefore, in his opinion, the 7 limits divine technique of devouring heaven and destroying earth was probably Ling Xiao's final trump card. Although the 7 limits divine art of devouring heaven and destroying earth is powerful, the Supreme True Dragon has already become a god. It will be difficult to kill him. There was a hint of worry in the old goat's eyes. The current Supreme True Dragon had already displayed a power that far exceeded that of an ordinary demon god. This had shocked both the old goat and Taoist Wuliang. To this day, they still couldn't believe how the Supreme True Dragon managed to ascend to godhood. After all, the gate of the realm of God was closed. Although Supreme True Dragon had refined the divine spark of the Scarlet Dragon War God 10,000 years ago, he was probably only half a step away from becoming a god. How did he become a true god? What exactly had happened that they didn't know about? Supreme True Dragon's identity was becoming more and more mysterious. The old goat and Taoist Wuliang could not help but feel worried. Ling Xiao and Supreme True Dragon were fated enemies. Who would be able to walk to the end? Do you want to see the 7 limits divine technique of devouring heaven and destroying earth? Very well. Recently, I have comprehended an ultimate technique. Please enlighten me. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with killing intent as he threw a punch at Supreme True Dragon. Boom. In the void, the chaotic mist rose violently. Ling Xiao's punch was like a giant hand that broke through the chaos. 4 dazzling divine lights rose and intertwined with each other, containing a mysterious force of the 4 symbols. Ling Xiao's black hair and robes fluttered in the wind. His eyes were burning with killing intent. Behind him, the ancestral dragon stood proudly in the 9 heavens. The true phoenix burned the earth, the white tiger roared and shook the galaxy, and the black tortoise held up the sky. The 4 symbols' divine beasts appeared in the void, exuding a terrifying aura. A terrifying force of destruction burst out, causing Supreme True Dragon's face to change abruptly. Good spirit, very good. Ling Xiao, I was right about you. You have used the secret skills of the ancestral dragon, the true phoenix, the white tiger, and the black tortoise as a foundation to comprehend the 4 symbols' heaven-striking style. If you have really become a god, I am afraid I may not be able to take this move, Supreme True Dragon exclaimed. Boundless divine light rose around him as he pushed his palms forward. The palm energy was so powerful that it seemed to be able to pierce through the heavens. Although he said that, he did not dare to be careless. Ling Xiao's 4 symbols' heaven-striking style made him feel a fatal threat. Crack. Ling Xiao and Supreme True Dragon collided violently. The 4 symbols' heaven-striking style was extremely ferocious. It contained the original force of the 4 great secret skills, and it seemed to be able to break through everything. Ever since Ling Xiao had comprehended this move, he had been unstoppable. He could even kill a demon god with one blow. However, Supreme True Dragon felt the terror of this move, and he gave it his all. The chaotic aura around him rose, and the void trembled violently. An extreme destructive divine light shot out from his eyes, containing the power to split the heavens and earth. That destructive divine light seemed to contain the deepest, darkest, and most evil power. It wanted to make people sink into the abyss of hell forever. Feeling the power of the god light of destruction, Zhu Gonglia's expression changed greatly. This is the power of the demon clan. Zhu Gonglia's body shook violently, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He suddenly realized that Supreme True Dragon's body contained the original force of the demon clan. Could it be that Supreme True Dragon was a member of the demon clan? Or could it be that he had been taken over by a demon clan elite? Rumble. Zhu Ganglai did not have time to think. The destructive divine light had already collided with the 4 symbols' heaven-striking style. It was as if billions of bright stars had exploded at the same time, causing the surrounding void to collapse. Chaotic fog filled the air, sweeping across the heavens as if everything had turned into the most original force. Between heaven and earth, there was a vast expanse of whiteness. It was as if nothing existed. 2 figures abruptly flew back from the dazzling divine light. The bright light exploded, and it was extremely dazzling. Everyone tried their best to open their eyes, wanting to see everything clearly. Who was the winner? Chapter 1094. Rumble. Dazzling light shone in the void. Dazzling divine light illuminated the mountains and rivers for hundreds of millions of miles. Boundless chaotic mist rose into the air, as if a new world was about to be formed. Ling Xiao's figure flew out from the chaos and stood in the sky. His face was pale and there was blood at the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were as bright as the stars. The power of the 4 elephants' sky-striking style was terrifying, but Supreme True Dragon's eyes were like the legendary Torch Dragon's eyes. They contained the power of darkness, evil, and destruction. Although the power of the 4 elephants' sky-striking style was strong, it was blocked by the power in Supreme True Dragon's eyes. It was probably not enough to injure Supreme True Dragon. Whoosh! Supreme True Dragon's body was also sent flying back. However, he looked extremely miserable at the moment. His hair was disheveled, and his body was covered with bloody wounds. Fresh blood was flowing out of his eyes, making him look extremely ferocious and terrifying. Haha. Good. Very good. Ling Xiao, I didn't expect you to be so talented to be able to develop the 4 elephants' sky-striking style to such a level. You have the right to see my demon god's eyes. Supreme True Dragon laughed as his eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. Boom. Black demonic aura rose around him. At this moment, It was as if he had changed into another person. His aura changed drastically, becoming dark and strange. Although the dragon's aura was still very strong, it felt like he was a demonic dragon that was only left with the purest power of slaughter and destruction. His eyes had also turned pitch black, like a black whirlpool, as if it was going to devour all the energy around it. The wind and clouds around him surged, and a vast demonic aura rose, turning the place into a demonic realm. Supreme True Dragon, you have indeed colluded with the extraterritorial demons. Or rather, you are the extraterritorial demons. You really deserve to die. Ling Zhao's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he stared at Supreme True Dragon. Extraterritorial demons? Ha ha. Ling Xiao, you ants of the human race, how can you understand our greatness? Today, I will show you what despair is. Supreme Real Dragon sneered. Chaotic chi rose in his eyes and a vast demonic aura filled the air. It was as if he had the power to split the heavens and the earth. Terrifying demonic light was like a chain of order. In an instant, it traversed the void and charged towards Ling Xiao. What? The Supreme True Dragon is actually an extraterrestrial demon? This is too hard to believe. I was wondering why the War God Temple would collude with the extraterritorial fiends. So the War God Temple's master is an extraterritorial fiend. Outer realm demons must die. This is the iron law of the entire War God realm. Many experts were shocked, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Colluding with extraterritorial fiends and being an extraterritorial fiend were two different concepts. Colluding with the extraterritorial demons might still be understandable in the eyes of the crowd, but the fact that he was an extraterritorial demon had already crossed everyone's bottom line. He had to die. Otherwise, the entire War God world would fall into the hands of the extraterrestrial demons. Many experts were well aware of the terror of the extraterritorial fiends. They treated all living beings in the War God world as pigs and dogs' food. If they fell into their hands, they would not be able to survive. Lord Devouring Sky Supreme, please kill this demon for the War God world. Lord Devouring Sky Supreme, please protect the War God world. Thunderous cheers rang out like thunder. Everyone looked at Ling Xiao with eyes full of anticipation. They all saw Ling Xiao as their savior. If even Ling Xiao could not deal with the Supreme True Dragon, the entire War God world would fall into the hands of the extraterritorial fiends. Kill. Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He didn't care what happened to the Supreme True Dragon. The old and new grudges added together couldn't compare to the fact that the Supreme True Dragon was an extraterrestrial demon. The Supreme True Dragon had to die. Ling Xiao also began to fight with all his might. The blood energy around him surged, and the devouring fire swept across the void as if it was burning. The true forms of the four spiritual divine beasts appeared behind him. The ancestor dragon crossed the 9 heavens. The resplendent 5-colored phoenix burned the heavens. The white tiger carried a monstrous killing intent, and the black tortoise opened up the chaotic void, reopening the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers rumble. Every punch of Ling Xiao's was filled with extreme power, and it was aimed at Supreme True Dragon. Whoosh! At this moment, a black light rose from the Supreme True Dragon's eyes, turning into a black flame that contained an extreme amount of destructive power. It burned the void so hard that it was on the verge of collapsing, and everything turned into chaos. This was the eye of the demon god, and also the strongest power of Supreme True Dragon. Ling Xiao felt an incomparably fatal sense of danger. The vast black flame seemed to be able to burn everything, and even his divine energy was set ablaze, and it was spreading throughout his body. Even the heaven-devouring fire was being pushed back by the black flames. Supreme True Dragon's eyes were filled with chaos, and the black light rose. The figure of the demon god flashed, and it revealed an incomparably terrifying and vast world. Whoosh! Ling Xiao's figure flashed across the void, and he turned into a dazzling divine rainbow. Wherever the black flame went, the void began to burn, and the heavens turned into a black sea of fire. There were even traces of the black flame that spread out, landing on the spectators in the distance. Instantly, those people let out incomparable screams as they were burned into nothingness by the black flame. Retreat! Everyone was shocked, and their eyes were filled with incomparable fear. Even Supreme Being experts could not withstand the black flame, and they were burned into ashes almost instantly. Everyone found it hard to believe their own eyes. How terrifying were those eyes! It was as if there was an inextinguishable fire in them that could burn the primordial spirit, flesh and blood, and turn everything into nothingness. Whoosh! Whoosh! Ling Xiao retreated at top speed, dodging the black flame. At the same time, he drew on the secret magic of heaven devouring to try to assimilate the black flame. Unfortunately for him, even the heaven devourer cauldron was working very slowly. After all, the black flame could be considered devil god fire, and it contained boundless magical laws of the Tao of gods. That said, Ling Xiao was relieved that, although the heaven devourer cauldron couldn't assimilate the devil god fire, it could at least protect him from the flames. The sea of black flame emanated a power that could cause one's nascent divinity to tremble. Supreme True Dragon is a wretch devil from outside? No wonder he could corroborate his Tao and become a god. He's actually a devil god. Chapter 1095. Refining godhood only allowed one to become a demigod, so the old goat was curious as to why the Supreme True Dragon could become a god after refining the Scarlet Dragon War God's godhood. Now it seemed that the Supreme True Dragon was just a demonic god. He was already at the level of a god, so there was no way he could become a god. However, was Ling Xiao really a match for such a terrifying Supreme True Dragon? Long Hanyan, Yueshan, Phoenix Maiden, and the others all looked extremely nervous. Although they had absolute faith in Ling Xiao, the Supreme Real Dragon was too terrifying. That monstrous demonic aura was enough to crush even a Supreme Being expert to pieces. One could imagine how much pressure Ling Xiao was under right now. Ling Xiao, do you only know how to dodge? If that's all you've got, then you should just go to hell. The Supreme True Dragon said coldly. It was as if a demonic god had appeared in his eyes and punched at Ling Xiao. Die. Ling Xiao's eyes burned with murderous intent. With the protection of the King Heaven Devourer Cauldron, he shot up into the sky and punched out like a dragon toward the eyes of the Supreme True Dragon. The Supreme True Dragon's demon gods, I posed a great threat to Ling Xiao. Although Ling Xiao's body was tough, it couldn't withstand the power of the eyes of the demonic god. If this continued, Ling Xiao would definitely be defeated. Crack. A terrifying fist imprint exploded, and that demonic god phantom was directly blasted apart by Ling Xiao's fist. Good timing. Supreme True Dragon said coldly. There seemed to be a strange light in his eyes. Before Ling Xiao's fist landed, he had already struck out with his palm. He had chosen the perfect timing. The eyes of the demonic god seemed to contain the power of the natural laws of heaven and earth. They could analyze the enemy's attacks and predict them in advance. Ling Xiao was in big trouble. Thanks to the eyes of the demonic god, the Supreme True Dragon could see through all of Ling Xiao's attacks. Every attack was aimed at Ling Xiao's vitals. Ling Xiao immediately fell into a disadvantage. Boom. The Supreme True Dragon's fist landed on Ling Xiao's chest, and the terrifying power of the demonic god spread through his body. As if struck by lightning, Ling Xiao was sent flying, coughing up a mouthful of blood. You're no match for me. Give up. Supreme True Dragon said coldly, his eyes filled with a sharp glint. To be able to force him to use his most powerful eye of the demon god, Ling Xiao should already be proud of himself. However, in the state of the eye of the demon god, the Supreme True Dragon's strength had reached a terrifying level. He could be said to be invincible in the same realm, not to mention Ling Xiao, whose cultivation was lower than his. Crack. Supreme True Dragon sent a black palm strike down like a bolt of black lightning, causing the void to tremble violently. It landed directly on Ling Xiao's arm, causing a crisp sound to ring out. Ling Xiao's arm instantly turned limp. Whoosh! Ling Xiao's gaze was cold. Enduring the intense pain, he flew backwards, putting some distance between him and the Supreme True Dragon. Ling Xiao stopped struggling. Supreme True Dragon said coldly. His speed was also extremely fast, not much slower than Ling Xiao's teleportation. In an instant he appeared behind Ling Xiao and pressed his palm on Ling Xiao's back. Puff! Ling Xiao spat out another mouthful of blood. His entire body seemed to be on the verge of collapse, and his face was pale. Ling Xiao. The old goat, Taoist Wuliang, Moon Goddess, Phoenix Maiden, and the others all exclaimed. Their eyes were filled with anxiety. The current Ling Xiao seemed to have completely fallen into a disadvantageous position. He had no strength to resist at all. It can't be? Is this guy going to die so soon? The white dragon horse's eyes were filled with suspicion. It stood at a distance, watching. After thinking for a while, it decided to go up and help. Although Supreme True Dragon's speed was fast, it was naturally not as fast as the white dragon horse. If Ling Xiao was riding on the white dragon horse, he could easily dodge Supreme True Dragon's attack. Don't come over. I can still handle it. Ling Xiao seemed to have noticed the white dragon horse's movements and transmitted his voice to it. The white dragon horse looked at Ling Xiao suspiciously. Is this guy trying to trick me? Many of the spectators were filled with anxiety and fear. Some of them were even planning to escape or surrender to the war god temple after Ling Xiao was defeated. This highly anticipated battle affected everyone's hearts, causing everyone's emotions to rise and fall along with it. Master, Ling Xiao is going to lose. Kasayapa Arhat's eyes flashed as he said plainly. Long-browed Buddha smiled faintly and said, Kasayapa, don't look with your eyes. Feel with your heart. I'm afraid this battle isn't as simple as you think. Master, does Ling Xiao have any other trump cards? Kasayapa Arhat asked in surprise. I don't know, but I don't think Sky-Devouring Supreme is that simple. Long-browed Buddha said plainly. In the distance, Zhao Ritian's eyes were filled with mixed emotions. Second uncle, Supreme True Dragon actually knows the demon god's eyes. In this state, I'm afraid Ling Xiao has no chance of winning. Second uncle's voice carried a hint of surprise and doubt as he said. Demon god's eyes? That's strange. How can he know the demon god's eyes? Could he be? But that's impossible. That guy has already been suppressed. Second uncle, who are you talking about? Zhao Ritian asked curiously. A terrifying person. However, it shouldn't be him. Although the demon god's eyes are strong, Supreme True Dragon can't maintain this state forever. If Ling Xiao can hold on, he might still have a chance of winning. Don't forget that Ling Xiao still has the fate reversing skill that he hasn't used yet. The second eldest uncle said meaningfully. When he mentioned the fate reversing skill, his voice trembled slightly. Ling Xiao, I hope you can win. Zhao Ritian sighed softly. After watching the battle between Ling Xiao and Supreme True Dragon, he finally understood that even though they were both titled Supremes, his combat strength was still inferior to Ling Xiao's. Moreover, Ling Xiao was the reincarnation of Sky-Devouring Supreme from 10,000 years ago. This news shocked him greatly. No wonder Ling Xiao's talent was so terrifying. It was the accumulation of 2 lifetimes. Bang! In the distance, Ling Xiao was sent flying by Supreme True Dragon's punch again. He coughed out blood continuously and his face was extremely pale. Even his aura had become extremely weak. However, Ling Xiao's eyes were incomparably resplendent, containing a vast and mysterious energy ripple. Just as Supreme True Dragon was about to attack Ling Xiao again, Ling Xiao suddenly closed his eyes. A mysterious and ancient energy fluctuation exuded from his body. The void seemed to have frozen at this moment. Freeze. Chapter 1096. Boom. The void trembled and suddenly came to a standstill. It was as if time had stopped. Ling Xiao's fingertips emitted a vast and mysterious power that enveloped Supreme True Dragon. That was the power of the Age of Time. Ling Xiao was willing to pay a huge price and suffer backlash in order to unleash the power of the Age of Time at this moment. Time had stopped. Supreme True Dragon, who looked as if he could kill Ling Xiao in the next moment, had a look of disbelief in his eyes. His entire body began to tremble violently. Boom. Ling Xiao spat out blood as the vast power of time exploded in his body. It was as if his entire body was going to explode into nothingness. Ling Xiao spat out a mouthful of blood, but his eyes shone brighter and brighter. Against destiny. Ling Xiao let out a thunderous roar as a black divine light rose behind him. It was as if a vast and mysterious river was crashing down on Supreme True Dragon. Among the 3 great inheritances of the Scarlet Dragon God of War, the Ares technique was indestructible and powerful. However, the Age of Time and Against Destiny were the most bizarre and terrifying powers. The power of time and destiny were both forbidden powers. Even the gods would find it difficult to control and fight against them. In order to deal with Supreme True Dragon's demon god's eyes, Ling Xiao did not hesitate to unleash the power of the Age of Time and Against Destiny at the same time. He wanted to completely kill Supreme True Dragon. After all, Supreme True Dragon was too terrifying. Under the demon god's eyes, he was invincible. If this continued, Ling Xiao would only end up defeated. Therefore, Ling Xiao pretended to be defeated by Supreme True Dragon and allowed himself to be hit repeatedly to distract Supreme True Dragon. Then all of a sudden he unleashed the power of the Age of Time and froze Supreme True Dragon for a moment. At the same time, Ling Xiao unleashed the most terrifying third move of the Against Destiny. He burned all of his life force and used his own fate as the foundation to exchange for a powerful force from the vast river of destiny to kill his enemy. Even though Ling Xiao was a titled Supreme True Dragon, he still suffered a huge backlash from using these two techniques at the same time. Boom! Ling Xiao's body seemed like it was about to explode. Cracks spread across his body like a spider web, and blood spurted out from his body. His vitality was rapidly draining away, and his entire body was shrouded in a layer of incomparably dense deathly aura. It was as if he could die at any moment. What he got in return was an unparalleled and boundless killing intent. Damn it! Supreme True Dragon was flustered and exasperated. There was even a trace of deep fear in his eyes. The power that went against the will of the heavens was acting directly on his divine spark. The mysterious river came crashing down on him, as if it was going to erase him from the world. Block it for me! Supreme True Dragon roared. Suddenly, black light gushed out from his body. He broke free from the shackles of time and blood spurted out from his mouth. A black shield containing ancient divinity appeared in the void after absorbing Supreme True Dragon's blood. It shone brightly and appeared in the void. The black shield should be some kind of powerful divine artifact, but it could only block ordinary attacks. The fate-reversing technique directly affected Supreme True Dragon's life chart essence soul. It was not something a divine artifact could withstand. However, that was not all Supreme True Dragon had. 7-colored divine light filled the space between his eyebrows. It contained the deepest, darkest, and most evil power. It suddenly exploded between the heavens and the earth. Fate-reversing technique versus 7-colored divine light. Rumble. The heavens and the earth were instantly shrouded in a terrifying divine light storm. This is the Seven Souls Dispersal Light? Zhu Gonglia's body shook, and his eyes revealed a trace of disbelief. He recognized that the 7-colored divine light that gushed out from Supreme True Dragon's eyebrows was the Seven Souls Dispersal Light that injured Jin Se. The Seven Souls Dispersal Light was the supreme technique of Demon God King Bo Sun. Since Supreme True Dragon knew this technique, could it be that he had pledged allegiance to Demon God King Bo Sun? In other words, Supreme True Dragon was Demon God King Bo Sun. At the thought of this possibility, Zhu Gonglia's expression changed drastically. He knew how terrifying Demon God King Bo Sun was. He was not someone Ling Xiao could fight against. What kind of power is this? How can it be so terrifying? I remember now. Back then, when Ling Xiao killed the left and right holy venerables, he used this move. The power of fate. How can it be done by human strength? Everyone's bodies began to tremble, and their eyes were filled with incomparable horror. The vast power of fate made everyone tremble, and their eyes were filled with fear, as if they were ants facing a divine dragon. It was as if the vast river was suppressing them, and they would die in an instant. This was no longer the power of an ordinary god. Perhaps only the legendary deity king could use the power of fate. Rumble. The heavens and the earth shook, and the chaotic fog surged. The light that seemed to destroy the world lit up the surroundings. After using the Seven Souls Dispersal Light, Supreme True Dragon seemed to have entered a state of suspended animation. He did not have any signs of life, and only the power of the Seven Souls Dispersal Light was fighting against the fate-reversing technique. However, the power of the fate-reversing technique was too terrifying. Even Supreme True Dragon was an insignificant ant in front of the river of fate. Supreme True Dragon spat out blood. and his body disappeared inch by inch as if it was erased by some great existence. In the end, only the seven souls' dispersal light wrapped around his primordial spirit. However, it was still trembling violently, and was in imminent danger. Ling Xiao seemed to have reached his limit. Blood spurted out from his body, and his face was pale. He was surrounded by the aura of death, and his hair turned white. His face was full of wrinkles, and he was old. It was as if he had gone through his entire life in an instant, and he was on the brink of death. Swoosh! Ling Xiao could no longer remain standing in the air. He directly landed on the Longevity Mountain, and sat cross-legged on a huge rock. His blood and qi had dried up, and his vitality was waning. The aura of death filled the air, and even when he spoke, he was panting heavily. Even his vision had turned murky and blurry. Shower. Seeing Ling Xiao in such a state, Long Hanyan was simply heartbroken. Her eyes were filled with incomparable anxiety as she shouted loudly. The old goat, Taoist Wuliang, Lu Jiani, Long Out Yin Moon Goddess, and Phoenix Girl were all trembling, and their eyes were red. At this moment, Ling Xiao was like a candle flame in the wind, and it was as if he could be extinguished at any time. However, Ling Xiao had paid such a huge price. Did he really kill Supreme True Dragon? Boom. Chapter 1097. Supreme True Dragon was only left with a small portion of his primordial spirit. With a flash of light in the void, he swallowed the essence of heaven and earth and formed a new physical body. However, at this moment, Supreme True Dragon looked flustered and exasperated. His eyes were filled with resentment and anger. His supreme divine body, his powerful and immortal primordial spirit, had been reduced to dust by this attack. If it weren't for the protection of the seven souls' dispersal light, he would probably be dead by now. Ling Xiao, you deserve to die. Supreme True Dragon looked up at Ling Xiao, his eyes filled with murderous intent. What? Everyone's body trembled, and a trace of despair appeared in their eyes. Supreme True Dragon did not die from such a terrifying attack, and was only severely injured. However, Ling Xiao did not seem to have any combat strength left. How could they fight? Was the godly war world going to become the food of the demon race? Everyone shuddered at the thought of such an outcome. Seven Soul Dispersal Light? Supreme True Dragon, what is your relationship with Demon King Bo Sun? Or, you are Bo Sun? Although Ling Xiao was severely injured and on the verge of death, his eyes were still sharp as he stared at Supreme True Dragon. You know about the Seven Soul Dispersal Light? You must have found Jin Se, right? Ha ha ha, Jin Se was hit by the Seven Soul Dispersal Light, and should have died in Closer's world. That's right, you can treat me as Bo Sun. Since Jin Se is dead, you should go down and accompany her obediently. Supreme True Dragon's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he charged towards Ling Xiao. Kill this demon king. Everyone, let's attack together. He has been severely injured by Lord Devourer. He is at the end of his rope. For the godly war world, kill. At this moment, Old Goat, Taoist Wuliang, Zhu Ganglai, and the rest roared and charged towards Supreme True Dragon. The experts who were watching the battle shuddered as their fighting spirit soared. The words of the old goat had stirred their blood, and they all charged towards Supreme True Dragon. They could see that Ling Xiao's life-reversing technique had severely injured Supreme Real Dragon. With so many supreme martial artists attacking at the same time, how could they not kill him? There were even people who were eyeing the divinity in Supreme True Dragon's body. As long as they could get their hands on his divinity, they might be able to ascend to godhood and obtain great power and longevity. Thus, everyone began to fight with their lives on the line. Rumble. Between the heavens and the earth, there seemed to be a vast torrent of attacks coming towards the Supreme True Dragon. Countless powerful mystic skills and weapons were flying across the sky. A bunch of ants. You are courting death. Supreme True Dragon's gaze turned cold. He immediately gave up on Ling Xiao and charged towards the crowd. Boom. He threw out a punch with boundless demonic might. His fist broke through the void and clashed with the old goat who was holding the demon saint's scepter, forcing the old goat to retreat. Even when Taoist Wuliang and Zhu Ganglai attacked at the same time, they could not stop the Supreme True Dragon. Instead, he broke through the blockade and charged towards the Supremes. Rumble. A huge demonic palm fell from the sky. It contained a blazing killing intent, and instantly turned the Supremes into a bloody mist. Supreme True Dragon used the sky-devouring mystic skill and devoured the flesh and primordial spirits of the Supremes. The aura in his body began to surge. The flesh and primordial spirits of humans are indeed the most delicious. Supreme True Dragon's eyes flashed with a hint of cruelty. He continued to charge towards the Supremes of the human tribe. Oh no! Everyone back off! This demon can recover his strength by devouring the flesh and primordial spirits of humans. Everyone run! All titled Supremes and above, follow me and kill this demon! Zhu Gonglia's expression changed. He immediately shouted and raised his nine-toothed rake to attack Supreme True Dragon. Boom! Supreme True Dragon's eyes flashed. He seemed to be able to feel the terrifying power contained in the nine-toothed rake. He did not fight Zhu Ganglai head-on. Instead, he broke through Zhu Gonglia's blockade and continued to charge towards the Supremes of the human tribe. Bang! In an instant, dozens of Supremes were turned into a bloody mist. They were then devoured and refined by Supreme True Dragon. Oh no! Run! Run! Many of the experts were crying for their fathers and mothers as their eyes were filled with terror. Only when they faced Supreme True Dragon did they realize how terrifying Supreme True Dragon was. Even a severely injured Supreme True Dragon could kill Supremes as easily as slaughtering dogs. How terrifying would Supreme True Dragon be when he was fighting Ling Xiao when he was at his peak? The Supremes did not dare to think about it anymore. They all fled in all directions. Freeze! At this moment, an old and calm voice was heard. Suddenly, 24 brilliant rays of light shot up into the sky. It was as if 24 worlds were intertwined with each other. They contained vast and terrifying power and instantly enveloped Supreme True Dragon. Only then did the Supremes realize that it was Long-Browed Buddha who had made his move. He formed a seal with his hands. 24 dazzling sea-calming pearls floated in the sky. They emitted a powerful sealing power as they tried to seal Supreme True Dragon. Fellow Taoists, please lend this poor monk a hand and seal this demon. Long-Browed Buddha Venerable's eyes showed a hint of anxiety as he hurriedly shouted at the crowd. Is it Long-Browed Buddha? Thank you, Long-Browed Buddha, for saving us. We are willing to help Long-Browed Buddha to seal this demon. The Supremes were overjoyed. Their eyes were filled with excitement. The 24 sea-calming pearls were the supreme treasures of the Tempest Temple. Legend had it that they contained vast power that could seal celestial demons. The Supremes infused their divine power into the sea-calming pearls. With Long-Browed Buddha's help, they began to suppress Supreme True Dragon. Rumble! The 24 sea-calming pearls began to tremble violently as if they had been severely damaged. Supreme True Dragon was about to break out of the seal at any time. At this moment, the Supremes did not notice that Ling Xiao, who was on the verge of death, had two mysterious powers pulsating in his body. Inside Ling Xiao's heart, the power of the seven-colored blood bead seemed to erupt in an instant. It directly blended into Ling Xiao's heart, causing his heart to become seven-colored. It was overflowing with colors, emitting a kind of ancient and mysterious energy fluctuation. Bang! 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 The rainbow blood pearl's heart trembled violently. Every time it trembled, there seemed to be a surge of power surging into Ling Xiao's dried-up body. Chapter 1098. You bunch of ants, how dare you trap me? When I get out of here, all of you will die. A cold and murderous voice exploded in the void, containing a dark and evil fluctuation. Rumble! Heaven and earth trembled violently. Above the void, 24 sea-calming pearls manifested 24 heavens. It was like a vast divine formation, sealing Supreme True Dragon within it. With Supreme Longbrow taking the lead, the old goat, Taoist Wuliang, Zhu Ganglai, and many other experts all took action. They poured their divine power into the 24 sea-calming pearls, wanting to completely seal Supreme True Dragon. However, at this moment, the 24 sea-calming pearls were trembling violently. Bright runes exploded, and there were rumbling sounds, as if Supreme True Dragon was desperately attacking the sea-calming pearls. Each sea-calming pearl was a flawless divine artifact. When the 24 sea-calming pearls were together, their divine power intertwined, containing an incomparably vast power. However, at this moment, the sea-calming pearls were trembling violently, And in the end, there was a crisp sound. Crack. A crack appeared on one of the sea-calming pearls. Rumble. A huge demonic palm suddenly smashed the sea-calming pearl into powder. The surrounding Zhou Tian shook, and black demonic energy gushed out. Supreme True Dragon instantly broke out of the seal of the 24 heavens, exuding a monstrous demonic aura. "You bunch of ants, how dare you trap me? Damn you!" Supreme True Dragon's eyes suddenly opened, and there were black flames rising from them. In an instant, they enveloped hundreds of experts and began to burn them. Miserable cries came from the mouths of those experts as they were engulfed by the black flames, and instantly turned into a bloody mist. Their flesh, blood, and primordial spirits surged towards Supreme True Dragon, and were devoured by him. "Stop him!" Longbrow Buddha's eyes revealed a trace of anxiety. If this continued, he was afraid that all of them would be killed by Supreme True Dragon. Whoosh! Longbrow Buddha's two long eyebrows pierced through the void like two vast heavenly rivers, containing majestic divine power fluctuations, and swept towards Supreme True Dragon. "Old bald donkey, you're courting death." Killing intent flashed in Supreme True Dragon's eyes. It was Long-Browed Buddha who had trapped him with the 24 Dinghai pearls. Otherwise he would have killed them all. Moreover, the flesh, blood, and primordial spirits of humans were simply great nourishment to him. Although he had been heavily injured by the life-reversing technique earlier, if he killed and devoured everyone here, he might be able to recover by half. Crack! Supreme True Dragon struck down with his palm. The dazzling saber radiance swept across the void as if it was going to split the long-browed Buddha in half. Boom! The remaining 23 Dinghai pearls instantly blocked in front of the long-browed Buddha, and collided with the blade radiance that was coming down. Dazzling divine light fluctuations burst out. Long-browed Buddha flew backward as if he had been struck by lightning. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was extremely pale. Kill! Zhu Ganglai, the old goat, Taoist Wuliang, and the rest all had cold murderous looks in their eyes as they surrounded the Supreme True Dragon. More than a dozen supreme titled martial artists attacked at the same time with powerful divine weapons in their hands. They wanted to completely suppress Supreme True Dragon. However, Supreme True Dragon's combat strength was too terrifying. Even though he had been severely injured by the life-reversing technique, he was like a tiger in a flock of sheep. He contained an invincible power. Almost no one could survive a single attack from him. They were all defeated by him in one blow. Even though Zhu Gonglia's battle prowess was very strong, he was still being pushed back by the Supreme True Dragon. Boom! More than a dozen experts were smashed into blood mists by Supreme True Dragon. Their flesh, blood, and primordial spirits were all devoured. Although Zhu Ganglai and the others were fighting with all their might, they were still at a disadvantage at this moment. There was no way for them to stop the Supreme True Dragon. Instead, the Supreme True Dragon had killed many of their experts, causing his aura to become stronger and stronger. Rumble! At this moment, a vast and dazzling thunderbolt descended from the 9 heavens. Ling Xiao, who looked like a lamp that was about to run out of oil, began to emit essence energy from his body. He exuded a vast and powerful aura of life. The dead skin on his body peeled off, and his jade-like skin regrew. His entire body exuded a powerful aura. Bolts of lightning struck his body, emitting a dazzling light. Ling Xiao's body began to devour the power of the lightning, making his body even more terrifying. Buzz! Ling Xiao's eyes abruptly opened. 2 dazzling beams of golden light pierced through the sky, containing a mysterious, ancient and majestic energy fluctuation. His entire body exuded a powerful divine energy. Ling Xiao's aura grew stronger and stronger. It seemed like he was about to surpass the peak of human Tao, and reach the legendary divine realm. What? Supreme True Dragon's body trembled. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He never thought that Ling Xiao would suffer such a terrifying backlash. Not only did he not die, but he even broke through and stood up again. His cultivation was beginning to soar. I can't let him break through. Supreme True Dragon's eyes were solemn. If Ling Xiao really broke through, he would be dead for sure. Boom! Supreme True Dragon's murderous aura rose as he charged toward Ling Xiao. Master's body is going to become a god? Ha ha ha. Don't let him disturb Master's breakthrough. Stop him. Zhu Gonglia's body trembled. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Then he laughed out loud and charged toward Supreme True Dragon. Get out of my way! Supreme True Dragon's demonic aura rose as he threw a punch at Zhu Gangli. His fist was vast and terrifying, as if it was going to shatter heaven and earth. Bang! After Zhu Gangli and Supreme True Dragon clashed head-on, he was sent flying with a single punch. Rumble! Even the old goat, Taoist Wuliang Long-Browed Buddha, and the others who wanted to stop Supreme True Dragon were all sent flying by Supreme True Dragon with one move. Supreme True Dragon was going all out. If he could not stop Ling Xiao from breaking through, the consequences would be unimaginable. Swoosh! At this moment, a dazzling light shot across the sky. It was so fast that even Supreme True Dragon could not react in time. His head was hit hard, and his vision turned black. He staggered as if he was about to fall. Bastard! Supreme True Dragon's eyes were filled with anger. He realized that it was the hoof of the white dragon horse. At the same time, he was shocked. The speed of the white dragon horse was so terrifying that even his primordial spirit could not react in time. Old demon, I'll let you have a taste of my Pegasus Meteor Punch. Die. The white dragon horse widened its eyes and looked at Supreme True Dragon with incomparable arrogance. Then it instantly turned into a stream of light, bright and dazzling, and its hooves kicked at Supreme True Dragon once again. Bang! Supreme True Dragon was kicked by the white dragon horse again. This time it was his nose. It was so painful that tears almost came out of his eyes. It was as if he had been slapped in the face by an ancient mountain. He was in a daze. The white dragon horse's strength was not too strong, but it was painful. It was as if the pain was magnified 10 times or 100 times. Damned horse, I'll chop you into pieces later. Supreme True Dragon thought viciously. He ignored the white dragon horse's attack and charged toward Ling Xiao after breaking free from the encirclement. Chapter 1099. Rumble. Above the sky, a sea of lightning rose, and the light was vast and dazzling. Precepts intertwined like divine chains, piercing through the void and locking Ling Xiao down below. Ling Xiao's body was glowing, and his body exuded a vast wave of divinity. It was as if he was transforming towards a certain extreme power. Originally, Ling Xiao did not want to reach the limit of his physical body becoming a god so quickly. It required time and practice. He needed to polish his physical body to the extreme and perfect state before he could take the final step. However, he had used the age of menstruation and the art of reversing fate. The backlash from the two forbidden powers had pushed him to the brink of death. At the last moment, the power of the divine dragon bloodline and heavenly thunder tea in his body completely erupted and were devoured by his physical body. As the saying goes, destruction is followed by creation. It allowed Ling Xiao's physical body to reach an unparalleled state on the brink of death. Rumble. Ling Xiao's physical body exuded a terrifying aura. His divinity flickered, and dazzling lightning flowed around him, forming a mysterious resonance with the heavenly thunder calamity. Becoming a god with one's physical body, especially in the current human world, was simply defying the natural order. However, the heavenly thunder calamity tea that Ling Xiao consumed had a shocking origin. It seemed to contain the original secrets of the heavenly thunder calamity, allowing Ling Xiao to become a part of the heavenly thunder calamity. Therefore, the heavenly thunder calamity in the sky could not descend. At this moment, the demonic aura around Supreme True Dragon rose. He used the demon god's eye, and his eyes shone with a cold murderous light as he charged towards Ling Xiao. You're courting death. Ling Xiao's eyes shone with a cold and sharp light. Dazzling light gushed out from his body, and he suddenly punched out. Crack! It was as if millions of lightning bolts had descended at the same time. Ling Xiao's punch was unparalleled, containing the power to crush everything. It suddenly broke through the vast demonic aura and landed on Supreme True Dragon's body. What? Supreme True Dragon's face changed. At this moment, Ling Xiao's strength was even more terrifying than before. He was close to the immortal realm, and his heart slowly sank. Boom! Supreme True Dragon was sent flying by Ling Xiao's punch, leaving a bloody hole in his chest. His body trembled violently as if it was going to shatter at any moment. At the same time, Ling Xiao looked up at the sky. His entire body emitted an undefeatable aura as he suddenly let out a long howl. Rumble. The divine light around him was dazzling, and the lightning was boundless. In an instant, it turned into a vast vortex of devouring. As he opened his mouth, the tribulations of thunder in the sky swarmed towards him. The bolts of lightning were like lightning dragons, containing an incomparably violent and destructive power. They were actually swallowed by Ling Xiao just like that. Everyone was stunned by this scene. Is that the legendary divine tribulation? Am I seeing things? Ling Xiao actually swallowed all the divine tribulation in one gulp? This is crazy. Everyone was trembling, their eyes filled with disbelief. At this moment, Ling Xiao was standing on a dazzling lightning dragon. Lightning surged around him, and golden light lingered around him. Divine chains of order traversed the void. His black hair fluttered in the wind, his eyes were bright, and his face was flawless. His robe was whiter than snow, and it emitted an extreme divine light. His entire body emitted an undefeatable aura. At this moment, Ling Xiao was like a heavenly emperor, looking down on all living beings. Everyone felt like kneeling down and worshipping him. Rumble. The tribulations of thunder were swallowed by Ling Xiao in one gulp. His entire body seemed to have broken through some kind of bottleneck. Instantly, his body emitted an immortal light. The void around him shattered at the same time, and streaks of chaotic fog filled the air. Behind him, there were the cries of dragons and phoenixes, as well as the roars of tigers and tortoises. The four divine beasts seemed to have come from the beginning of the world. They gathered around him and worshipped him. Moreover, there were the chants of all living beings. The mysterious Sanskrit of the ancient people made Ling Xiao seem ancient and mysterious at this moment. His body glowed and emitted an immortal fluctuation. One look at him would make one's blood boil, as if they were about to explode. This is the physical body of a god. Even in the divine realm or the devil realm, only the top geniuses can do this. I can't believe he actually did it. Zhu Gonglia's body trembled as well. His eyes were filled with excitement. Physical body of a god? This is bad. I'm afraid my Pegasus meteor punch won't be able to hurt this malefic. Am I really going to be his mount for the rest of my life? The white dragon horse also widened its eyes. It looked at Ling Xiao with a complicated expression. It suddenly felt that its future was bleak. Although the others did not know what physical body of a god was, they all knew that Ling Xiao had broken through the peak of the human realm and became an unparalleled god. This was an unprecedented achievement. It was dazzling and eye-catching. In the distance, Zhao Ritian's eyes also revealed a trace of shock. Ling Xiao. He actually became a god. Second uncle, didn't you say that the divine realm's door was closed, and it was difficult to become a god? Second uncle also exclaimed, that's right. The divine realm's door is closed, and it's difficult to become a god. Moreover, Ling Xiao has taken the most difficult path, which is physical body of a god. There's a kind of energy in his body that even I can't see through. Ritian, you have to speed up. I feel that the divine realm's door is about to open. The divine realm's door is opening? Could it be that some kind of existence is about to descend? Zhao Ritian's body trembled. His eyes revealed a trace of disbelief. It's hard to say. However, the supreme true dragon is Bo Sun? This is unbelievable. However, he shouldn't be Bo Sun's real body. If Bo Sun's real body really awakens, it will be a real disaster for the myriad of worlds. Second uncle's voice had a trace of seriousness that was rarely seen. Let's go, second uncle. This time, if I don't become a god, I won't come out. Ling Xiao has already become a god. The supreme true dragon will definitely die. When I come out, I will definitely have a fair fight with Ling Xiao. Zhao Ritian's eyes revealed a strong desire to fight. He looked at Ling Xiao from afar, and then turned to leave. Ling Xiao, you really exceeded my expectations. Who would have thought that you would still be able to rise from the ashes and step into the realm of the physical body, becoming a god? I'll spare your life today. The next time we meet will be the day you die. The supreme true dragon glared at Ling Xiao. His eyes were extremely gloomy. Suddenly, a demonic light flashed around him, and he was about to disappear into the void. He knew that before Ling Xiao had broken through, He could already fight with him to the point where both of them were injured. Now that Ling Xiao's body had become a god, he would definitely die if he continued to stay here. Chapter 1100. Old demon, my big brother hasn't said anything and you want to leave? Why don't you stay here? Look at Grandpa's Pegasus meteor fist. The white dragon horse rolled its eyes and roared. Its body flashed with light as it charged towards the Supreme True Dragon. Although Supreme True Dragon could move through the void, and was extremely fast, how could he be faster than the white dragon horse? Boom! The white dragon horse's hooves came crashing down from the sky, like an ancient divine mountain crashing down from the 9 heavens. In an instant, it broke through the void and smashed into the Supreme True Dragon's head. Boom! Supreme True Dragon had already moved to the void. When he heard the white dragon horse's voice, he felt that something was wrong. However, the white dragon horse was too fast. Almost as soon as it finished speaking, it appeared beside him and gave his head a hard smack. The Pegasus meteor fist was named by the white dragon horse. It contained an extremely terrifying power. If it was an ordinary demon god, he would have been killed instantly. However, no matter how strong Supreme True Dragon was, he felt his vision darken. It was as if 10,000 divine beasts were running over his head. He wanted to curse the white dragon horse. Zhu Ganglai was also speechless. The white dragon horse was not a good person. It was so arrogant and hostile to Ling Xiao. If it was not for the restriction of the dragon subduing spell, it would not have been willing to be Ling Xiao's mount. However, after Ling Xiao's physical body became a god, this fellow's attitude changed drastically. It started to fawn on Ling Xiao, and even called him Big Brother. How shameless. It seemed that Ling Xiao's physical body becoming a god had affected the white dragon horse greatly. It started to lower its pride. The white dragon horse is right. Supreme True Dragon, you'd better stay here. Ling Xiao's indifferent voice suddenly rang out in the void. Boom. A terrifying fist print came crashing down from the sky. It contained a blazing divine light, and came crashing down on Supreme True Dragon. This fist was unparalleled. It seemed to contain the power of heaven and earth. Supreme True Dragon had no room to dodge. Moreover, Ling Xiao's fist radiated an immortal light. It was as if nothing could penetrate it. Supreme True Dragon's demonic aura, including his demon god's eye, could not affect Ling Xiao at all. Puff! When the terrifying fist landed on Supreme True Dragon's body, Supreme True Dragon's body actually exploded and turned into a pile of ashes. His vitality was completely destroyed. This was also the first punch that Ling Xiao had unleashed after his physical body became a god. With one punch, the Supreme True Dragon had died. However, Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with a strange light. He could sense that there was only an extremely weak primordial spirit in the Supreme True Dragon's body. Even the godhead had mysteriously disappeared. Wang. A dazzling light spread out, and the image of the Supreme True Dragon appeared in front of Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao could tell that this was the last remnant imprint of the Supreme True Dragon's primordial spirit. It wouldn't be long before it completely dissipated. The power of a god's body is indeed powerful. However, you will never know how powerful I am. The Supreme True Dragon said coldly. My guess was right. You should be a clone of demon god King Bo Sun, right? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he asked indifferently. You can understand it that way. You killed my great transformation's demon body, causing my original body to be damaged and unable to return as scheduled. As repayment, when I return, I will let you become my great transformation's demon body and help me rule this world. Supreme True Dragon said indifferently with a strange glint in his eyes. Although Ling Xiao didn't know what the great transformation's demon body was, he guessed that it should be something like a puppet or a clone. He laughed coldly and said, So what if you are demon god King Bo Sun? After hiding for so many years, I'm afraid you don't have much strength left, right? If you dare to show yourself, I will kill you. The ignorant are truly fearless. Ling Xiao, I will remember you. The Supreme True Dragon smiled indifferently. His eyes were filled with mockery as he looked at Ling Xiao deeply. Instantly, he turned into a dazzling rain of light and disappeared completely. The Supreme True Dragon had completely fallen. Although he had gotten his revenge, Ling Xiao did not feel the slightest bit of joy. Perhaps Supreme True Dragon had already become Bo Sun Demon God King's all transformations demon body 10,000 years ago, which was why he had become so deranged. At this time, Ling Xiao realized that although Supreme True Dragon's combat strength was far beyond that of a divine spirit, he didn't have the realm of a divine spirit. The Great Transformations demon body was indeed terrifying. He just didn't know how many Great Transformations demon god King Bo Sun had. Ling Xiao suddenly thought of the mysterious divine king of the Star Alliance. Could he also be demon god King Bo Sun's Great Transformations demon body? The battle in the void calmed down and the shattered void was restored. There were no clouds in the sky and the sky was blue. The sun shone down golden rays, making Ling Xiao look like an invincible god of war. Everyone looked at Ling Xiao with admiration, their eyes filled with the joy of surviving a calamity. Supreme True Dragon had died at Ling Xiao's hands, which meant that the god of war world was finally safe. They did not hear the last part of the conversation between Ling Xiao and the Supreme True Dragon. But with Ling Xiao, a god of the present age, there was endless confidence in their ability. Moreover, some of them felt that the longevity sect would probably replace the War God Hall as the #1 sacred ground in the God of War world. Ling Xiao had become the undisputed #1 expert in the world. Greetings, heaven-devouring war god. Greetings, heaven-devouring war god. Thunderous voices resounded in the void as countless experts from the sacred grounds bowed towards Ling Xiao. Their eyes were filled with fervent worship. At this moment, there were more than 10,000 experts from the sacred grounds gathered around Longevity Mountain. Practically all of them were at the Monarch realm or above, and they represented the strongest forces in the God of War world. Ling Xiao had killed Supreme True Dragon, which was equivalent to saving the God of War world and becoming the #1 expert in the world. Naturally, they felt heartfelt respect for him. The title Heaven-Devouring Supreme didn't fit him anymore, so they called Ling Xiao the Heaven-Devouring War God. All the experts in the God of War world were bowing to Ling Xiao like millions of living beings were bowing to the Celestial Emperor. At this moment, Ling Xiao was extremely honored and respected by the world. Even Long Outyan, Lu Jiani, and the others felt honored. Their eyes were filled with excitement and excitement. This was the heaven-devouring war god, Ling Xiao. The experts of the War God Hall had been annihilated a long time ago. Whether it was the powerful divine generals or the black armored army, all of them had been slaughtered. Only Hua Tianzong had been imprisoned by Zhu Ganglai. Chapter 1101. Everyone please rise. Ling Xiao stepped into the air and stretched out his hand. Suddenly, a vast amount of divine power exploded and swept out in all directions. Everyone stood up involuntarily, including the titled honorable ones. This powerful divine power made everyone's heart tremble. At the same time, they looked at Ling Xiao and listened to him speak. Everyone. Although Supreme True Dragon is dead, I know from him that the extraterritorial demons may come again at any time. The great calamity has begun, and we don't have much time left. Ling Xiao's words were like a bolt of lightning, instantly causing everyone to tremble. Their eyes were filled with disbelief and fear, and they exploded in an instant. What? The extraterritorial demons are coming again? Oh my God! The great calamity has begun, and it will sweep across the universe. Living beings are like weeds. I'm afraid many people will die again. What should we do? What should we do? Don't be afraid. We have the sky-devouring battle god. He is invincible. He will definitely lead us to defeat the extraterritorial demons. Everyone was discussing animatedly. All of them started to panic, and their eyes were filled with terror. Greetings, Lord Sky-Devouring. Lord Sky-Devouring, do you know when the extraterritorial demons will come? Where will they come from? Long-browed Buddha put his palms together and bowed deeply to Ling Xiao. Long-browed Buddha? You are the little monk beside Bodhi. I didn't expect you to become the abbot of the Great Lane Temple in just 10,000 years. Ling Xiao glanced at the long-eyebrow Buddha. Suddenly, he thought of something and said with emotion. Although the long-browed Buddha looked very old, Ling Xiao could still vaguely see the figure of the little monk from back then between his eyebrows. 10,000 years ago, Bodhi Supreme was the abbot of the Great Lane Temple. He was also the master of long-browed Buddha. Ling Xiao had discussed with Bodhi Supreme and had seen long-browed several times. 10,000 years had passed. Bodhi Supreme had passed away while sitting cross-legged. Long-browed Buddha had also become old. Omnipotent Lord Sky Devouring, do you still remember me? I'm old now, but Lord Sky Devouring is still as elegant as ever. Long-browed Buddha exclaimed. Everyone shuddered. The long-browed Buddha was a man of virtue and prestige in the war god world. He could be said to be one of the most prominent figures in the war god world. Many lords of the Holy Lands were his juniors. But now the long-browed Buddha was bowing to Ling Xiao. They finally understood what kind of status the strongest person in the world had 10,000 years ago had. 1,000,000 years ago, when the extraterritorial demons descended, war god Scarlet Dragon led the experts of the myriad worlds to fight against the extraterritorial demons, setting off a great war between gods and demons. The result of that battle was naturally our victory, but it was also a Pyrrhic victory. War god Scarlet Dragon died in battle, and before he died he used a supreme divine ability to seal many demon gods in the Origin Sea. Looking at Long Eyebrow Buddha and the others, Ling Xiao revealed an unknown secret. When everyone heard that the extraterritorial demons were sealed in the Origin Sea, their eyes were filled with shock. When they learned that many demon gods had broken free 10,000 years ago, and that it was Long Sheng Supreme who had been guarding the Origin Sea, killing billions of demon gods and protecting the war god realm, their hearts were filled with deep respect and gratitude. Among the extraterritorial demons, the most powerful one is Demon God King Bo Sun, and Supreme True Dragon has been controlled by Demon God King Bo Sun. Although Supreme True Dragon is dead, I'm afraid it won't be long before Demon God King Bo Sun wakes up and leads the demons to attack the war god world. As for where they are hiding now, I don't know. Ling Xiao shook his head and sighed softly. Lord Sky Devouring, it seems like there are still 5 heavenly Tao chaotic tablets in the hands of Demon God King Bo Sun. If we can gather all the heavenly Tao chaotic tablets and open the door to the god world, we'll announce it to the heavens. If the gods descend, they will naturally be able to stop this calamity. Long-browed Buddha looked at Ling Xiao and said, since Supreme True Dragon was controlled by Demon God King Bo Sun, he naturally didn't have the heavenly Tao chaotic tablets with him. As for the 9 heavenly Tao chaotic tablets, according to the Emperor, they were treasures refined by a powerful saint. The other 5 tablets were probably in the hands of Demon God King Bo Sun. As for the heavenly Tao chaotic tablets, I will try to find them. However, I hope that all the martial Tao sacred grounds can get along peacefully. Don't fight among yourselves and cultivate diligently. Now that the war god world is at the brink of life and death, I hope that everyone can work together to fight against the demons. Ling Xiao said as he looked at the experts indifferently. We will obey the heaven-devouring battle god's decree. Many experts from the sacred grounds bowed and said, just like what Ling Xiao said, the war god world was at the brink of life and death. If they continued to fight among themselves, they would undoubtedly be courting death. Moreover, Ling Xiao had proven his Tao and become a god. Many of the sacred grounds supremes seemed to have seen hope. All of them were prepared to go into seclusion and cultivate diligently to break through to the divine spirit realm. The great battle between Ling Xiao and Supreme True Dragon had stirred up many experts. In the past, it was said that those below the supremes were ants. Now it could be said that those below the divine spirit realm were ants. If one couldn't prove his Tao and become a god, he was just a pile of dust. With a heavy heart, everyone bid farewell and left. From today onwards, the name of the sky-devouring supreme would resound throughout the world. He deserved to be the strongest in the world. Master, Demon God King Bo Sun cultivates the 10,000 transformations demon scripture, and can condense the 10,000 transformations demon body, which is similar to an avatar. I think Supreme True Dragon must have cultivated the 10,000 transformations demon body, which is why he has such terrifying power. I don't know how many thousand transformations demon bodies Bo Sun has condensed. If all the 1,000 transformations demon body were to return to his body, his strength would increase greatly even if he couldn't fully recover. Master, you must be careful, Zhu Ganglai said as he looked at Ling Xiao solemnly. The Thousand Transformations Demon Scripture? Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. Bo Sun was a peerless expert at the Divine King realm. Even if he couldn't fully recover his cultivation, Ling Xiao might not be able to deal with him. He might not be able to deal with Bo Sun if he only used his physical body to become a god. Could it be that he had to open the gate of the Divine Realm and invite the experts from the Divine Realm to come and kill Bo Sun like what the long-browed Buddha had said? Zhu Ganglai, how much strength can Bo Sun recover? Ling Xiao asked Zhu Ganglai. Zhu Ganglai thought for a while and said, if the gate of the Divine Realm wasn't closed, Bo Sun wouldn't be an exception even if he could fully recover his cultivation. However, now that the gate of the Divine Realm is closed and restricted by the law of this realm, Bo Sun can only exert the strength of a true god no matter how strong he is. The strength of a true god. Chapter 1102. Although Master's physical body has become a god, it's already difficult for him to fight against a peak Divine Spirit Realm expert, let alone a true God Realm expert. Unless Master can become a god using the laws, with the double God Realm and the wordless Heavenly Book, he might be able to fight. Zhu Ganglai said slowly. Becoming a god using the laws? How difficult. Ling Xiao sighed softly. Although his cultivation had reached the titled Supreme Realm, and seemed to be only a step away from becoming a god, the door to the God Realm was closed and he couldn't comprehend the Divine Tao laws and refine the Divine Qi. The difficulty of becoming a god using the laws was no less than becoming a god using the physical body. Ling Xiao could only become a god using his physical body because he obtained the Heavenly Thunder Calamity Tea. Becoming a god using the laws wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. Let's think about this at length. Ling Xiao said slowly. If there wasn't any great fortune in a short period of time, it would be difficult to become a god using the laws. Whoosh. Ling Xiao walked down slowly from the 9 heavens. The old goat, Taoist Wuliang Long Out Yen Lu Jianyi Moon Goddess, Phoenix Maiden, and the other familiar faces were filled with excitement. Ah, Ling Xiao. It's been 10,000 years. You finally got your revenge and killed that despicable Zhenlong. The old goat was so excited that his eyes were red. He couldn't help but run up and say, killing Zhenlong isn't considered revenge. Our real enemy now is the extraterrestrial demon. Ling Xiao said with a smile. Xiao, you're finally back. Where have you been for the past 6 years? Mother doesn't care if you're the sky-devouring supreme. Mother only knows that you're my Xiao, and always will be. Long Hanyan's red eyes were filled with joy. She walked up and hugged Ling Xiao tightly. Ling Xiao's heart was also very warm. He was very attached to this kind of pure maternal love. In his previous life he was an orphan. In this life he finally had biological parents. He cherished them very much. Mother, don't worry. In my previous life, I was an orphan without parents. In this life, I'm Ling Xiao with mother. Ling Xiao smiled gently and hugged Long Hanyan. His heart was incomparably warm and peaceful. White Dragon Horse, Ling Xiao is my big brother. How dare you call Master big brother? I think you need to be taught a lesson. The old goat's gaze landed on the White Dragon Horse and looked at it with some malicious intent. Your big brother? Bah. It was just an old goat. How dare it compare with the great and noble Dragon Horse? Even if you want to be a mount, no one will want you. The White Dragon Horse looked at the old goat arrogantly and said disdainfully, what did you say? A mixed-blood dragon horse dares to be arrogant in front of me? If I don't teach you a lesson today, you won't be convinced, right? The old goat immediately became angry, and a hint of hostility appeared in his eyes. The goat and the horse looked at each other, and were about to fight. Alright, stop messing around. Ling Xiao had no choice but to stop them. He was afraid that these two idiots would start fighting just like that. Everyone smiled helplessly. However, the dragon horse, a mythical beast from ancient legends, had appeared. Moreover, it had become Ling Xiao's mount. Everyone was amazed. Greetings, Master. Lu Jianyi also bowed with a face full of admiration and excitement. He also completely understood that the young man on Qianyuan Mountain was Ling Xiao. He was still wondering how such a powerful person could appear in the God of War world. He did not expect it to be Ling Xiao. "Cousin, this white dragon horse is so powerful. Even the supreme true dragon suffered a loss in its hands. It's much better than me." Long Outhian also walked up excitedly and looked at the white dragon horse in surprise. Fire Qilin, on the other hand, was depressed. He had never seen such a shameless master. Previously, he had begged Ling Xiao for Fire Qilin to be his mount. Now that he saw the white dragon horse, his eyes were wide open. "Ling Xiao, we haven't seen each other for 6 years. I didn't expect you to ascend to the divine realm and become the most powerful person in the world. It's really worth celebrating. However, after so many years, we really miss you." Jian Wushuang, Du Geshui, Li Jingming, and the rest were all smiling as they spoke. "Greetings, founder." The experts from Changsun sect, led by Nangong Xian and the Great Elder, were all extremely excited as they bowed to Ling Xiao. They were the most shocked. The demon-like Holy Sun was actually the reincarnation of the founder, sky-devouring supreme, from 10,000 years ago. However, when they thought of how powerful the founder was, they knew that Changsun sect would definitely become the #1 sanctuary in the God of War world in the future. Nangong Qing, Lu Piapiao, Ling Qingqing, and the other ladies were all excited and complicated. They were excited because they finally saw Ling Xiao again after more than 10 years. Ling Xiao's identity was actually the founder, sky-devouring supreme from 10,000 years ago. This made them feel extremely complicated. "Everyone, it's been a long time." Ling Xiao also smiled and cupped his hands towards the crowd. After returning to Changsun sect and seeing so many old friends, Ling Xiao felt extremely emotional. However, he also felt very close to them. Buzz. A light flashed in the void and a chubby little boy and an old man with white hair and beard walked over slowly. Their bodies were emitting waves of divinity. However, they looked a little weak as though their vitality had been greatly damaged. Their faces were filled with fatigue. "Ling Xiao, you're back? That's great. Quick, follow me to take a look. The Divine General of Time is in a bad situation." When the little boy and the white-haired old man saw Ling Xiao, the little boy's eyes immediately revealed a trace of surprise and joy. "You guys are?" Ling Xiao looked at the two of them suspiciously. He felt that they were familiar, but he couldn't recognize them. When he heard that Ling Zhen was in a bad situation, his face changed. "Ling Xiao, they are big radish and longevity grass. They have already transformed. In these few years, if we rely on their divine liquid to prolong the Divine General of Time's life, I'm afraid. You should go and take a look." The old goat's eyes were filled with worry as he said hurriedly. "Big radish and longevity grass?" Ling Zhao's eyes were filled with disbelief. The transformation of divine medicine was something that only appeared in legends. He didn't expect these two fellows to have already transformed. However, he didn't have the time to chat with them. His eyes were filled with worry as he hurriedly followed them into Changsun Mountain. 6 years ago, in order to help Ling Xiao kill the left and right holy masters, Ling Zhen didn't hesitate to use the power of time. As a result, he suffered a backlash from the power of time. He was like a lamp that had run out of oil. He relied on the divine liquid from big radish and longevity grass to survive until now. He didn't expect his condition to worsen suddenly. Ling Xiao was burning with anxiety. He didn't have time to chat with the rest and quickly left. Soon he saw Ling Zhen in a palace. Chapter 1103. Ling Zhen was lying on a white jade bed. The white jade was a 10,000-year-cold jade that contained an extremely cold aura. It could seal Ling Zhen's vitality and prevent his injuries from worsening. At that moment, Ling Zhen looked pale, and his body was filled with a deathly aura. The vitality in his body was extremely weak. In between his eyebrows, there seemed to be a ball of black aura that was trying to invade his consciousness. How could this be? Ling Xiao was shocked and a tinge of anxiety appeared in his eyes. He quickly began to check on Ling Zhen's injuries. There was a chaotic power of time in Ling Zhen's body, and it contained the broken rules of heaven and earth. It was constantly devouring the vitality in his body. There was still a majestic vitality in Ling Zhen's body. It was gathered by the divine liquid of the divine medicine. It was protecting his heart meridians and his consciousness from the invasion of the power of time and the rules of heaven and earth. If it weren't for the big radish and the longevity grass, Ling Zhen wouldn't have been able to hold on for 6 years. Xiao, or do you have a way to treat your father's injuries? Long Hanyan was also very anxious as she looked at Ling Xiao with anticipation. Mother, don't worry. I will definitely be able to heal father's injuries. You guys go out first. I will treat father's injuries. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly. Great. That's great. Long Hanyan cried tears of joy. She looked at Ling Zhen worriedly, and left the palace with the rest. Ling Xiao looked at Ling Zhen. Although the chaotic power of time in Ling Zhen's body was strong, it wasn't impossible to resolve it. The wordless heavenly book should be able to devour it easily. However, the wordless heavenly book was currently suppressing the 7 souls scattered soul light in Jin Sei's consciousness. This put Ling Xiao in a difficult position. It seems that I can only use the cycle of time to slowly absorb and refine the power. Ling Xiao thought about it and said. He had also cultivated the cycle of time, and naturally knew how to guide the power of time in Ling Zhen's body. However, he would have to bear the backlash of the power of time. However, Ling Zhao's physical body had become a god. Even the rainbow blood pearl had integrated into Ling Zhao's body, allowing him to undergo a complete transformation. He had finally broken through to the divine dragon body realm. With the strength of his physical body, it shouldn't be too much of a problem for him to bear the backlash of the power of time. 1. Ling Zhao's body glowed with light as mysterious ripples spread out. His palm landed on Ling Zhen's back as he channeled the power of time, guiding the power of time in Ling Zhen's body. Rumble. Like a tsunami, the chaotic power of time in Ling Zhen's body surged into Ling Zhao's body, and was slowly refined by Ling Zhao's time cycle. Ha! Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. He suddenly felt that after refining the chaotic time force and the shattered laws of heaven and earth, the divine power in his body actually began to slowly grow again. After Ling Zhao's cultivation had reached the level of titled supreme, the divine power in his body had increased to the maximum. If he wanted to continue increasing, he would have to ascend to the divine spirit realm. Although Ling Zhao's physical body had become that of a god, his divine power law cultivation was still only at the level of a titled supreme. The 3 treasures of essence, energy, and spirit represented 3 different paths to becoming a god. Among them, using the divine power law to become a god was the path of energy. It was the most common path. After all, the divine power law was spread all over the universe. Comprehending the way of heaven and becoming a god was the easiest. The second path was the primordial spirit realm. If one wanted to use the primordial spirit realm to ascend to the primordial spirit realm, they would have to give up their physical body and walk the path of the primordial spirit realm to become a god. However, now that the door of the divine path was closed, if one gave up their physical body and used the primordial spirit to ascend to the divine spirit realm, it would be no different from courting death. They wouldn't be able to enter the divine world and condense their divine body. The most difficult path was to ascend to the divine realm using one's physical body. Ascend to the divine realm using one's own strength to shatter the vacuum and condense eternity and immortality. That was why Ling Zhao's physical body was so difficult and precious. However, after refining the chaotic power in Ling Zhen's body, Ling Xiao actually saw the possibility of using the divine power law to become a god. If I can use the essence, energy, and spirit realms to ascend to the 3 divine realms, even if I enter the divine world in the future, I will be able to compete. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed and revealed a look of enlightenment. To ascend to the divine realm using the essence, energy, and spirit realms was definitely an extremely difficult path. Therefore, there weren't many people who chose this path since ancient times. Most of them would choose the easiest way to ascend to the divine power law. This time, when he healed Ling Zhen's injuries, Ling Xiao saw a possibility. If he could use the essence, energy, and spirit realms to ascend to the 3 divine realms, he would have much more confidence when facing the demon god King Bo Sun in the future. If Ling Xiao hadn't used the wordless heavenly book before his physical body became a god, Ling Zhen's injuries would have been extremely troublesome for him. However, to Ling Xiao now, it wasn't much of a problem. After a few hours, all the foreign energy in Ling Zhen's body was completely refined by Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao helped Ling Zhen consume a healing elixir. Seeing that the energy in his body had stabilized, he was relieved. Xiao how's your father? Seeing Ling Xiao come out, Long Hanyan's eyes instantly revealed a look of anticipation. Mother, father is fine now. It shouldn't be long before he wakes up. Ling Xiao smiled and said, Really? That's great. I'll go take a look at your father. Have a good chat with Xiao Wu and Xiao Yu. Don't bully them. Long Hanyan said with a smile. Then, she gave Ling Xiao a look and turned to enter the room. At that moment, Phoenix Maiden and Moon Deity were standing behind Long Hanyan. After hearing Long Hanyan's words, they couldn't help but blush. Ling Xiao also looked at Phoenix Maiden and Moon Deity awkwardly. The atmosphere was charming and gentle. Moon Deity, I didn't expect your cultivation to have reached the titled honorable realm. Congratulations. Can you feel the presence of Moon Mother? Ling Xiao coughed softly and looked at Moon Deity as he asked. 6 years ago, Moon Deity was only a half step to honorable realm. In just 6 years, she had reached the titled honorable realm. This speed of improvement was heaven-defying. Ling Xiao guessed that it might be because of Moon Mother. After all, Phoenix Maiden's talent was extraordinary. She was only at the 3rd level honorable realm now. I've only obtained the Moon Mother's cultivation, that's all. It's not my true strength. Moreover, I feel that it won't be long before I break through to the godly realm. At that time, Moon Mother might really return. Moon Deity's face had a cold smile as she spoke calmly. The Moon Mother's cultivation? Can you let me see your primordial spirit? If I can communicate with Moon Mother's primordial spirit, I might be able to reconstruct her physical body. Chapter 1104. It's no use. Don't worry, I'm fine. However, Xiao Wu has missed you a lot in these 6 years. Moon Goddess smiled faintly. Phoenix Girl's face instantly turned red. She did not dare to look into Ling Xiao's eyes and said softly, Sister Moon Goddess, don't talk nonsense. Everyone in Changsun sect is very happy that Ling Xiao is back. After she finished speaking, the Phoenix Maiden raised her head and looked at Ling Xiao. Her eyes were filled with a faint smile, mixed with deep emotions. Ling Xiao sighed in his heart. How could he not understand Phoenix Girl's feelings? However, it was a pity that he was destined to be unable to accept it. Ling Xiao did not know what to say, and felt a little awkward. However, very quickly Old Goat, Taoist Wuliang, Long Outyan Lu Jianyi Jian Wushuang, Duga Shui and the others came over to help Ling Xiao. On the other hand, the big radish looked like a 2- or 3-year-old kid. It looked very mischievous and adorable. The moment it appeared, it flew onto Ling Xiao's shoulder, and hugged Ling Xiao's neck to ask for a present. Then, with snot and tears, it told Ling Xiao how it had used the divine liquid to prolong Ling Zhen's life all these years. As for longevity grass, his hair and beard were all white, and he looked like an immortal. When he looked at Ling Xiao, his eyes were full of smiles and there was even an inexplicable look in them. Ling Xiao, Zhu Biao said that you went to reincarnation world in these 6 years. Quickly tell us what happened. Old Goat shouted. Everyone looked at Ling Xiao, and they were very curious about his experience in these 6 years. In the few hours that Ling Xiao was healing Ling Zhen, Zhu Biao had already told them about Ling Xiao's experience in these few years. However, there were many things that even Zhu Biao did not know. Zhu Biao is right. I did go to reincarnation world in these 6 years. Ling Xiao smiled and told them about how he fell into reincarnation 6 years ago, and was brought to reincarnation world by reincarnation beast. This conversation went on for a few hours, and the sky had already darkened. Ling Xiao took out the divine beasts that he had killed in Kumwa Holy Mountain. Those divine beasts contained powerful fluctuations of power of divine path. To everyone, they were simply unimaginable treasures. The old goat, the white dragon horse and Long Outyan's eyes widened. They all rushed forward to snatch the meat, and in the end, they turned it into a delicious dish. The old goat and Taoist Wuliang took out dozens of jars of wine, as if they were performing a magic trick. Everyone sat at the top of the longevity mountain. Above their heads was a sky full of stars that sprinkled down resplendent starlight. The sea of clouds lingered in the distance, and the mountain breeze was cool and refreshing. It was extremely comfortable. When everyone heard that Ling Xiao had fought against geniuses in the reincarnation realm, slaughtered immortals, swept away invincible enemies, and finally killed his way into the sealed land and killed many demonic gods. They were all fired up. They couldn't wait to fight alongside Ling Xiao. What shocked everyone the most was that the seemingly simple and honest Zhu Ganglai, who was gnawing on a piece of meat, was actually a demon god, and he had been subdued by Ling Xiao. When everyone heard this, Outyin and Old Goat, who were sitting next to Zhu Ganglai, almost jumped out of their seats. They spat out the wine in their mouths onto Zhu Gonglia's face, as if they had seen a ghost. So what if he's a demon god? I'm following Master now, and we're all good brothers in the future. Come, let's drink. Zhu Ganglai said innocently. He then pulled Outyin and Old Goat to sit down and drink with them. The Old Goat and Long Outyin also seemed to be drunk. They quickly forgot about the demon god and began to drink with Zhu Ganglai. After a while, they started to call each other brothers, as if they were a family. Everyone smiled helplessly. At the same time, they looked at Ling Xiao with admiration. Ling Xiao's strength had reached an unimaginable level for him to be able to subdue even the demon god. When they heard that Xue Wei had become the saintess of the Reincarnation Palace, supported the entire Reincarnation Palace by herself, fought against the demon race, and was forced to marry by Yin Jiutian, everyone was heartbroken and angry. The ups and downs of the past 6 years made everyone extremely shocked and emotional. However, most of them were more curious about Ling Xiao's identity as the heaven-devouring supreme. Ling Xiao, the true dragon supreme, is dead. You have avenged your great hatred. Do you know where Jinsei is now? The Old Goat seemed to be drunk as he spoke. Jinsei. The name seemed to have some kind of magical power, calming everyone down instantly. The Phoenix Maiden, in particular, revealed a hint of sadness in her eyes. Longevity Paragon Jinsei was Ling Xiao's cultivation partner in his previous life. Phoenix Girl had sensed that Ling Xiao loved someone deeply in his heart. How could she not know that that person was Jinsei? However, 10,000 years had passed. Was Jinsei really still alive? I have found Jinsei. Ling Xiao looked at everyone and said slowly. What? Ling Xiao's words were like a sudden clap of thunder. Everyone was shocked, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. You really found Jinsei? Where is she? Old Goat couldn't be bothered to drink anymore. His eyes were filled with excitement as he looked at Ling Xiao. This is what I wanted to tell everyone. After leaving the reincarnation realm, I went to the sealed world in the Origin Sea and found Jinsei there. However, she was already hit by demon god King Bosun's 7 souls dispersing soul light. Ling Xiao's voice was rather gloomy as he recounted how he had found Jinsei in the Origin Sea. Everyone was shocked to hear this. Longevity Paragon has guarded the demon clan alone for 10,000 years. How admirable! Jian Wushuang was a man of few words, but he couldn't help but raise his cup as his eyes were filled with deep admiration. It is all thanks to Longevity Paragon that the War God continent could have 10,000 years of peace. Let's work together to kill demon god King Bosun and save Longevity Paragon. Li Jingming Dugu and the others said solemnly. Jinsei had endured 10,000 years of loneliness in order to protect the War God Great World and suppress billions of demons. She had won everyone's respect and admiration. Ling Xiao, I believe Sister Jinsei will wake up. I wish the two of you a long life together and never be separated. Phoenix Girl, who had been silent all this time, seemed to have made up her mind. She suddenly raised her head and smiled brilliantly as she raised her cup to Ling Xiao. However, her slender fingers were trembling and her face was pale. Her heart was extremely unsettled. Phoenix Girl's heart was filled with bitterness. She knew she had lost. No matter what, she couldn't compare to Jinsei's 10,000 years of waiting. No wonder Ling Xiao's heart was so firm while she could never take the next step. If Ling Xiao accepted her despite Jinsei's 10,000 years of waiting, Phoenix Girl would never be able to forgive herself. That would mean she had underestimated Ling Xiao, underestimated Jinsei, and underestimated herself. Moon Goddess glanced at Phoenix Girl worriedly, but didn't say anything. Although she felt bitter in her heart, she had to wake up in the end. Thank you. Chapter 1105. Everyone toasted each other and laughed as they talked about the past few years. For 6 years, no one had been as relaxed as they were today. In the end, everyone was drunk at the peak of the Longevity Mountain. The old goat and the white dragon horse were drunk. These two fools even fought, and their faces were all bruised and swollen. In the end, after drinking a few pots of wine, they began to put their arms around each other's shoulders and called each other brothers. Long Out Yin Zhu Biao and Lu Jianyi ate until their stomachs were round. They were all satisfied and fell asleep with a faint smile on their faces. Even the big radish, the spirit herb, actually started to fight for meat and wine. After it got drunk, it swayed and rolled its head around, giggling to itself. The longevity grass, on the other hand, looked sage-like. After drinking a few cups of wine, it looked nostalgic. It looked at the void in the distance and drank by itself. Jian Wushuang, De Geshui, and Li Jingming were all drunk. They wanted to compete with Ling Xiao, but they all fell to the ground drunk. The Phoenix Lady and the Moon God had already left at some point. It turned out that the people from the Longevity sect, Nangong Xian, Great Elder, and Nangong Qing had left them alone and did not disturb them. Moreover, they still needed some time to digest the news that Ling Xiao was the sky-devouring supreme. It was too unbelievable. In the end, Ling Xiao stood alone at the peak of the Longevity Mountain and looked at the calm sea of clouds. The full moon in the sky shone brightly, and the stars lit up the dark sky. Ling Xiao was a little drunk. Once upon a time, he seemed to have stood here with Jin Sei to admire the moon. Now he was the only one left. For some reason, Ling Xiao missed Jin Sei very much and felt sad. After 10,000 years, he finally saw Jin Sei. However, Jin Sei was poisoned by the seven souls dispersing light. Her life was in danger and he felt helpless. When would he be strong enough to protect the people around him and never be separated again? Jin Sei, I miss you very much. I miss you very much. Ling Xiao murmured softly as he looked at the bright full moon in the distance and faced the cold mountain wind. Suddenly, Ling Xiao's body shook and his eyes were filled with joy. He opened the small world, and a figure in a red dress walked out of it. Jin Sei woke up. Ling Xiao stared at the figure in front of him in a daze. His eyes were filled with great surprise and excitement, and his entire body began to tremble. Big brother Ling Xiao, I missed you so much. With a soft murmur, a woman in a red dress walked out from the bright moonlight. She was tall, had jade-like skin, and had picturesque features. She exuded a peerless aura of elegance and magnificence. She had a faint smile on her face and her eyes were filled with excitement. Although her face was a little pale, it was still difficult to hide her peerless temperament. She was like a goddess from the 9 heavens who had descended to the mortal world. Ling Xiao was a little dazed. Who else could this woman be other than Jin Sei? 10,000 years of waiting had finally come to fruition today. Ling Xiao's heart was filled with emotions. How lucky was the heavens to him. Jin Sei walked up and hugged Ling Xiao. Once upon a time, such a scene had appeared countless times in Ling Xiao's dreams. Tens of thousands of years of loneliness and waiting, all for that figure that he yearned for day and night. But now, as he embraced Jin Sei and felt her warmth, Ling Xiao actually had a surreal feeling. Jin Sei, is it really you? Is it really you? Ling Xiao's body trembled with excitement, and his eyes turned red. Jin Sei had been poisoned by the 7-soul dissipating soul light. Although the wordless heavenly book had suppressed it, she had still fallen into a coma. Although Zhu Ganglai had said that Jin Sei would wake up after the energy in her body had reached a balance, Ling Xiao still found it hard to believe. It's me, big brother Ling Xiao, it's been 10,000 years. I knew you were fine. I finally see you again. Jin Sei said softly, her eyes filled with joy and excitement. At the peak of Longevity Mountain, the full moon hung high in the sky. Resplendent starlight shone down, illuminating the sea of clouds in a dazzling light. A pair of people hugged each other, forming a beautiful picture. This moment was quiet, and no one disturbed them. Ling Xiao hugged Jin Sei tightly, afraid that this was just a dream. When he woke up, everything would still be the same. After a long time, the two separated. Jin Sei looked at Ling Xiao seriously, her gaze as gentle as water, and her smile was full of joy. Jin Sei, you're really too silly. Why did you have to bear so much on your own? Ling Xiao looked at Jin Sei, his eyes filled with tenderness. Ling Zhao's heart ached when he thought of how Jin Se had stayed in the Origin Sea for 10,000 years, suppressing the demon race on her own, enduring 10,000 years of loneliness. Big brother Ling Xiao, I know you're definitely not dead, so I have to protect this world for you and wait for your return. It's really good to see you now. Jin Se's face was filled with a dazzling smile that seemed to light up the dark sky. It was as if only in front of Ling Xiao, that peerless sword goddess who could suppress the world, that eternal sovereign who could slay gods and demons with a single strike of her sword, would reveal her little daughter's side. You're really too silly. Jin Se, just how did you survive these 10,000 years? Ling Xiao stroked Jin Se's white hair tenderly and said. He could sense that Jin Se's cultivation no longer fluctuated at all. The seven soul dissipating soul light firmly occupied her sea of consciousness, forming a mysterious balance with the wordless heavenly book. Jin Se's white hair danced in the wind, and her life force seemed to be almost exhausted. Ling Zhao's heart ached. 10,000 years ago, Big Brother Ling Xiao and Supreme True Dragon went to search for the Scarlet Dragon War God's tomb. Later on, news of you being killed by Supreme True Dragon came. Jin Se and Ling Xiao sat at the top of the Longevity Mountain, surrounded by a sea of clouds and a mountain breeze. Jin Se recounted the events of the past 10,000 years. Originally, when the news of Ling Xiao's death spread, Jin Se was devastated. Just as she was about to search for Ling Xiao and seek vengeance from Supreme True Dragon, a group of extraterrestrial demons broke through the sealed world and invaded the War God's world. That calamity caused the people of War God's world to be plunged into misery and suffering. The Longevity sect also suffered heavy casualties. In the end, Jin Se was heavily injured, but she unintentionally awakened the power left in her by the spiritual sage. In the end, by chance, she entered the sealed world and suppressed the demon race. Jin Se, is the spiritual sovereign still alive and still in your body? Ling Xiao asked slowly, a sharp glint in his eyes. Chapter 1106. The spiritual elder is dead. Jin Se let out a soft sigh as she slowly spoke. The spirit sovereign is dead, but I've inherited all of the divine power she left behind. In the end, she took me in as her disciple and told me to carry out her final wishes and guard the sealed world. At that time, I was completely disheartened and wanted to leave the War God's world, so I went to the sealed world. Jin Se's words put Ling Zhao's heart at ease. As long as the spiritual elder was not scheming to take over Jin Se's body, Ling Xiao was naturally relieved. However, there were still many secrets on Jin Se, some of which even Jin Se herself did not know. For example, even if Jin Se was not related to the spiritual elder, why did Jin Se look exactly like the spiritual elder in the spirit tribe? Ling Xiao would have to find the answers to these questions himself. Jin Se, do you know where Lin Feng and the others are? A few years ago, I found Lu Jiani, but he has turned into a child and seems to know nothing about his past. Ling Xiao asked Jin Se. In his previous life he had 7 true disciples, but only Lu Jiani had been found. There was no news about the others. Jiani has turned into a child? If that's the case, perhaps Lin Feng and the others are still alive. Jin Se's eyes lit up, as if she had suddenly thought of something, and spoke with surprise. In the great calamity 10,000 years ago, Lin Feng and the others fought bravely, but were all heavily injured in the end. I sealed them in the 1,000 Coffin Mountain. Brother Shura also sealed himself in the 1,000 Coffin Mountain, because he went to help the Longevity sect. Perhaps we can find them there. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. The 1,000 Coffin Mountain? He had once heard the current Shura sect leader say that the Shura Supreme was in the 1,000 Coffin Mountain. If Lin Feng and the others were in the 1,000 Coffin Mountain, it would be good news for Ling Xiao. In his previous life, Ling Xiao had 7 true disciples. They were the first disciple Mu Linfeng, second disciple De Longqing, third disciple Yi Qianjue, fourth disciple Lu Jiani, fifth disciple Yanyang Tian, sixth disciple Lu Gichen, and seventh disciple Ji Hangong. According to Jin Se, the 7 of them had been sealed in the 1,000 Coffin Mountain. Then why had Lu Jiani escaped earlier? Perhaps this question could only be answered by going to the 1,000 Coffin Mountain. Ling Xiao and Jin Se confided in each other. as if they were trying to make up for the time they had lost in the past 10,000 years. When she heard that Ling Xiao had been reborn because of the wordless heavenly book, and all the things that had happened along the way, Jin Sei's eyes were also filled with shock. In just a few short decades, Ling Xiao had already reached the supreme god realm. Such an achievement could already be said to be unprecedented. Big brother Ling Xiao, I once read about the three gods realm in the inheritance of the spiritual sage. If you can reach the three gods realm in the mortal world, your future will definitely be limitless. Jin Sei seemed to have thought of something as she looked at Ling Xiao. Jin Sei, in your opinion, if I reach the three gods realm, do you think I can contend against demon god King Bo Sun? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he asked slowly. Jin Sei was probably the only person who had exchanged blows with demon god King Bo Sun. It's hard to say. Jin Sei's eyes revealed a trace of seriousness as she said, when I entered the sealed world, demon god King Bo Sun had already escaped. According to the information that I obtained from the various demon gods, demon god King Bo Sun's 1,000 transformations demon scripture can split into thousands of clones, and even reincarnate. His original body should have been severely injured, so he should have split his primordial spirit, gathered the 1,000 transformations demon body, and finally returned to his original body. In the past 10,000 years, I don't know how much he has recovered, but the 7 souls dispersing soul light is extremely powerful. If his original body descends, even if it's only a 10,000th of his strength, it's still not something that we can contend against. As for the three gods realm, we might be able to fight. Jin Sei, don't worry. I will definitely kill Bo Sun and cure you of the poison of the 7 souls dispersing soul light. Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of determination. I believe in you. Jin Sei smiled faintly. After seeing Ling Xiao, Jin Sei felt that the 10,000 years of waiting and loneliness were actually nothing. It was really good to be able to see him again. Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of worry. Jin Sei's body probably wouldn't be able to hold on for more than a few years. Unfortunately, Jin Sei's body had the poison of the 7 souls dispersing soul light. Ling Xiao had no way of extending her lifespan because the divine medicine that could extend her lifespan could very well break the balance between the 7 souls dispersing soul light and the wordless heavenly book. At that time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Ling Xiao and Jin Sei sat at the peak of Longevity Mountain for an entire night. On the second day, the morning sun jumped out of the sea of clouds, emitting millions of rays of dazzling light. It was as though the heavens and earth were lit up in an instant. The peak of Longevity Mountain was filled with thousands of rays of light, dazzling and dazzling, as though it was a divine realm. Longevity Mountain had never been as beautiful as it was now. Ling Xiao and Jin Sei stood at the peak of Longevity Mountain, their robes and hair fluttering in the wind. They were like a pair of immortals, making people unable to bear to disturb them. Unknowingly, all the disciples of Longevity sect had already arrived at the Longevity Square. With Nangong Xian and the Great Elder as the leaders, all the disciples of Longevity sect stood with their hands behind their backs. Their eyes were filled with fanaticism and worship. Naturally, there were some faces that Ling Xiao was familiar with, such as Nangong Qing, Ling Qingqing, Lu Piapiao, Ling Zhao's in-name disciple, Master Jiaomu, Wang Chuanxiong, Guzhong Wang Han Ling Juechen, Xia Huang, and the others. Ling Xiao and Jin Sei turned around and looked at the crowd calmly. When the crowd saw Jin Sei beside Ling Xiao, their eyes were filled with incomparable shock. Wasn't the lady in the red dress beside Ling Xiao the longevity paragon? At this moment, the statue of longevity paragon and Jin Sei were facing each other from afar. Regardless of appearance or temperament, they were exactly the same. Greetings, Ancestor Devouring Sky Supreme. Greetings, Ancestor Longevity Paragon. Everyone was stunned for a moment, then understood almost instantly. They all bowed deeply towards Ling Xiao and Jin Sei. 10,000 years ago, Longevity Sect's 2 most outstanding figures, Devouring Sky Supreme and Longevity Paragon, had both appeared. This was the fortune of Longevity Sect, and also the fortune of the world. Nangong Xian, the Great Elder, and the other elders were filled with excitement. It was as though they had seen the day Longevity Sect became the #1 sanctuary in the world. Their bodies were trembling. As for Nangong Qing, Ling Qingqing and Lu Piapiao, they looked at Ling Xiao with a complicated and bitter gaze. Cheers filled the sky above Longevity Sect like thunder, shaking the void in all directions. Chapter 1107. Under Ling Xiao's leadership, the Longevity Sect moved into the Heavenly God's Stone and named it the Longevity World. Although the Longevity World was not as big as the War God's world, it was still a complete small world. The mountains and rivers within a radius of 10 million li had already become the Longevity Sect's territory. In the Longevity World, the mountains and rivers were vast. Numerous divine mountains rose from the ground. Countless rare birds and beasts galloped between the mountains. Countless precious spiritual herbs and exotic flowers grew in the Longevity World. As a new world, the Longevity World's spiritual energy was 10 times, or even 100 times more than the War God's world. Thus, the Longevity World was the true supreme holy land to the entire Longevity Sect. The Path Understanding Tree seemed to like the Longevity World more. Furthermore, Ling Xiao activated the Longevity World's origin energy, causing the Path Understanding Tree to grow rapidly. Now it was already over 1,000 zhang tall. The tree crown was like a dome. The leaves were luxuriant, and it emitted a mysterious and ancient aura. The area enveloped by the Path Understanding Tree became a supreme holy land for cultivation. It allowed the Longevity Sect's disciples' cultivation to soar by leaps and bounds. The Longevity Mountain was directly moved into the Longevity World by Ling Xiao. Furthermore, he had the old goat move 360 divine mountains and laid down the Zhou-Tian star formation. As for the 8 Desolates region, Ling Xiao did not give up. It became the outer sect of the Longevity Sect. The inner sect was in the Longevity World, and the outer sect was in the 8 Desolates region. Only the most talented disciples would be able to enter the world of longevity. Thus, the Longevity Sect's disciples were all filled with enthusiasm. Their cultivation began to soar by leaps and bounds. Originally, Nangong Xian wanted to pass the position of sect leader to Ling Xiao. However, Ling Xiao and Jin Sei did not agree. Instead, they allowed Nangong Xian to continue leading the Longevity Sect. They restored the ancient system and ascended to the heavens to worship their ancestors. The Longevity Sect could be said to be changing day by day. It had already begun to transform into the #1 holy land in the world. 2 generations of the War God's Temple's successors were captured by Ling Xiao. However, the Primal Chaos Sacred Body and the 5 Elements Sacred Body's peerless talent still made Ling Xiao regard them highly. However, when he and Zhu Ganglai examined them carefully, they discovered that these 2 were not the true Chaotic Sacred Body and 5 Elements Sacred Body. In their bodies, there was a mark left behind by Bo Sun Demon God King. They were actually the myriad transformations demon body chosen by Bo Sun Demon God King. Demon God Bo Sun had extracted a trace of the law of primal chaos and the law of 5 elements and fused them into their bodies. Master, the sacred body of chaos and the sacred body of 5 elements are top-notch talents even in the divine realm. They have a great chance of becoming a sage. These 2 guys are just superficial. Zhu Ganglai was also a little disappointed. He had been eager to see if he could devour their bloodline talents, but now it seemed that he had been overthinking it. In the end, these 2 unlucky fellows lost all their value and were killed by Zhu Ganglai. Most of the experts of the War God Temple had died in this battle. The others had probably fled long ago. Moreover, according to the information Ling Xiao had obtained, the core of the War God Temple was not in the War God world at all. Instead, it was in outer space. Ling Xiao gave up on finding trouble with the War God Temple. Instead, he prepared to make a trip to the 1,000 Coffin Mountain. Whoosh! Ling Xiao rode the old goat while Jin Sei rode the white dragon horse. They left the Longevity Gate and turned into a ray of light heading towards the myriad coffins mountain with extreme speed. Zhu Ganglai and Zhu Biao were left behind to teach the disciples of the Longevity Gate. Ling Xiao had already completely refined the God Stone and opened a fixed passage from the world of longevity to the 8 Desolates region. Therefore, Ling Xiao could enter the world of longevity with just a thought. After Ling Xiao's physical body became a god, he realized that the God Stone was indeed a supreme divine tool. It could even be used to suppress the fate of the Longevity Gate. With the God Stone, Even gods could forget about attacking the world of longevity. With the God Stone, one could even use the God Stone to suppress gods. The Thousand Coffin Mountain was one of the 8 great forbidden grounds of the war god continent. Legend had it that it contained an endless amount of life and death chi. It formed its own world law and contained countless ancient divine coffins. Many ancient experts buried themselves in the Thousand Coffin Mountain before they died, hoping that they could be reborn one day. The Shuren king had told Ling Xiao before that Supreme Shura used the time wood as a coffin to bury himself in the Thousand Coffin Mountain. Now Ling Xiao hoped to find the other 6 disciples as well as Supreme Shura in the Thousand Coffin Mountain. The old goat and white dragon horse were at loggerheads before even fighting, but now they were like brothers. As they flew towards the Thousand Coffin Mountain, they chatted with each other with shifty eyes. Ling Xiao was speechless. Although the white dragon horse was a little arrogant before, it was still relatively innocent. But now, it seemed like it was being led astray by the old goat. Ling Xiao and Jinsei flew through the clouds. The mountains and rivers below were majestic and incomparably vast. It was extremely beautiful. Ling Xiao and Jinsei were very relaxed and enjoyed this kind of time. Brother Ling Xiao, 10,000 years ago, Lin Feng and the others were heavily injured. The Path Understanding Tree was also destroyed in that battle. I used the Path Understanding Tree as a coffin, and buried the 7 of them in the Thousand Coffin Mountain. Logically speaking, the 7 of them should still be in the Thousand Coffin Mountain. But since Sword 1 came out, I'm afraid something happened to Lin Feng and the others. A trace of worry appeared in Jinsei's eyes as she spoke softly. Ling Xiao held Jinsei's hand and smiled. Don't worry. Since Sword 1 is fine, I believe Lin Feng and the others should be fine too. We'll know when we reach the Thousand Coffin Mountain. Jinsei nodded. Brother Ling Xiao, the Thousand Coffin Mountain is one of the 8 great forbidden grounds. It has been passed down since ancient times, and there are many secrets within. 10,000 years ago, I met a godly being who called himself the Death Race and fought with him. The Death Race is extremely strong, so you must be careful. Death Race? There's a godly being in the Thousand Coffin Mountain? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he asked slowly. The Thousand Coffin Mountain was incomparably mysterious. Very few creatures dared to step into the Thousand Coffin Mountain. Even the strongest experts would only bury themselves in the Thousand Coffin Mountain after they died. However, very few people were clear about the situation within the Thousand Coffin Mountain. The Thousand Coffin Mountain contains a dense aura of life and death, and the aura of death accounts for more than 99% of it. As the saying goes, extreme yin gives birth to yang. I'm guessing that the Death Race are ancient experts who were buried in the Thousand Coffin Mountain. For some reason, they awakened a new consciousness, forming a new race. Jinsei slowly voiced out her conjecture. If that's the case, then I really want to see the experts of the Death Race. Perhaps I can learn some news about the divine realm from them. Ling Xiao said with a smile. Even if an ancient godly being were to awaken, Ling Xiao was not afraid at all. Chapter 1108. They soon arrived at the Thousand Coffin Mountain. This was a region shrouded in black mist. Towering mountains rose from the ground, but they were all shrouded in a black mist that contained a dense aura of death. One could faintly see that there were many huge coffins in the area covered by the black fog, and they gave off an ancient and mysterious aura. The Thousand Coffin Mountain was incomparably mysterious among the 8 forbidden grounds. It was similar to the God Burial Cave, but not exactly the same. If the God Burial Cave was an ancient battlefield of gods and demons, then the Thousand Coffin Mountain could be said to be a part of hell. Some people even believed that if they buried themselves in the Thousand Coffin Mountain, they could reincarnate. The Thousand Coffin Mountain was incomparably dangerous. Even Supreme Being experts didn't dare to carelessly enter because the pure aura of death would steal away all life. Experts below the Supreme Being realm would probably turn into a pile of bones in an instant. Supreme Being experts might be able to resist the aura of death, but they wouldn't carelessly enter. The surroundings were incomparably silent. The sound of the wind, the water, and the roars of the demonic beasts had all disappeared. A strange aura spread out, causing the old goat and white dragon horse to stop talking. They pricked up their ears with vigilance in their eyes. Ling Xiao originally planned to let Jin Se recuperate in the longevity sect, but Jin Se insisted on coming with him. Ling Xiao thought about it and agreed. Although Jin Se didn't have any cultivation and was just a weak girl, with Ling Xiao around, he naturally wouldn't let anyone harm her. Ling Xiao and Jin Se entered the Thousand Coffin Mountain together. They retracted their auras and slowly advanced forward. The mountains were shrouded in black mist, which made them look very strange. Some of the mountains were filled with ancient coffins. Some of them were even broken apart, revealing the skeletons within. However, some of the mountains had extremely powerful auras. Only one coffin floated in the air as if it was its territory, occupying an entire mountain. Ling Xiao could tell that the coffins that could occupy an entire mountain were all made from ancient divine items. There were divine wood of time, divine peach wood, divine wood of space, green bamboo wood that was 1,000,000 years old, golden lightning wood. However, the coffins made of divine objects had existed for an unknown number of years. At this moment, they were all enveloped in a layer of deathly aura. The fluctuations of divinity had dissipated, leaving behind only a gloomy deathly aura. Those coffins were all perfectly preserved. Ling Xiao could even feel a powerful aura coming from them. It was neither dead nor alive. It was very mysterious. Ling Xiao, could it be that after those coffins are opened, the ancient gods will really come back to life? The old goat looked at the surrounding mountains in astonishment. It was also the first time he and the white dragon horse had come to the Thousand Coffin Mountain, so they were very curious about everything around them. The mysterious aura and undulations of the Thousand Coffin Mountain made them feel very uncomfortable. This place was like hell. Only dead things could exist here, and living things would be suppressed by the laws of the Thousand Coffin Mountain. Although the old goat and the white dragon horse could resist the attack of the death aura, they still felt very uncomfortable. You can try. Ling Xiao glanced at the eager old goat and white dragon horse with a faint smile on his face. However, the two of them gave up after thinking about it. Who knew what would jump out of the coffins? If something that they couldn't deal with really came out, then they would lose a lot of face. They're just a bunch of dead things. There's no need to care. Let's go find nephew Lin Feng and the rest. The old goat waved his hand and said nonchalantly. Ling Xiao and Jin Se both smiled faintly and continued forward. Brother Ling Xiao, legend has it that there are 10,000 mountains in the Thousand Coffin Mountain. Every mountain has a different aura of life and death. 10,000 years ago, under the guidance of a feng shui family, I buried Lin Feng and the rest at the place where the Yin dragon gathered. It's an excellent feng shui treasure ground. The aura of life and death has reached a perfect balance. Not only can it seal their injuries, it can also nourish their bodies. It's in that mountain. Jin Se pointed at a mountain in front of them. There were dragons and tigers crouching there. The mountains were like giant dragons sitting on the ground. Finally, they gathered at the most central mountain. That mountain was like a huge gate. It was square and very strange, but it contained some kind of mysterious power. That mountain looked very strange. The black aura of death and the white aura of life intertwined with each other, forming a perfect balance. Let's go. Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of anticipation as he held Jin Se's hand and flew towards the mountain. Ling Xiao could feel that there were 36 dragon-shaped mountains on both sides of the mountain. They were like Yin dragons gathering together, exuding a majestic aura. Moreover, the aura of death permeated the air. Just as Ling Xiao and Jin Se came into contact with this mountain, the black aura of death actually began to churn violently. Rumble. Like a black thunderbolt exploding, a black divine light flashed in the void. From the mountains on both sides, dozens of green-faced, fanged zombies rushed out. Their bodies were pitch black, and they were dressed in ancient clothing. Every one of them exuded an aura of death. Their eyes were blood red and filled with cold killing intent. The aura of these zombies was not much weaker than an ordinary supreme being, but they did not have the slightest bit of intelligence. What surprised Ling Xiao was that there was a pale-faced young man in a black robe, carrying an ancient sword on his back. This young man was very handsome, and his skin exuded a jade-like luster. If it weren't for the aura of death surrounding his body and the lack of any signs of life, he would be no different from a human. His eyes were filled with a cold light as he stared at Ling Xiao and Jin Se. A cold voice came from his mouth. Who are you? How dare you trespass into the sacred land of the Deathkin? Since you're here, leave your lives behind. The black-robed young man's voice was emotionless. However, he was different from the zombies around him. He actually had intelligence. His aura was not much weaker than a titled supreme being, and he exuded a cold arrogance. A member of the Deathkin? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed, revealing a trace of surprise. It was just as Jin Se said. There really were Deathkin powerhouses in the Thousand Coffin Mountain. In his previous life, Ling Xiao knew that the Thousand Coffin Mountain was very mysterious. There were even powerful zombies that appeared, but they did not have the slightest bit of intelligence. Today was the first time he saw a Deathkin powerhouse with intelligence. Kid, you're very arrogant. What sacred land of the Deathkin? A bunch of dead people dare to call themselves the Deathkin? Since you're not completely dead, I don't mind killing you again. Chapter 1109. My second brother is right. If you know what's good for you, move aside obediently. Otherwise, we'll flatten this bullshit Thousand Coffin Mountain. The white dragon horse glared at the black-robed young man with disdain. However, the white dragon horse had been tricked by the old goat into calling him second brother. Ling Xiao was speechless. The black-robed young man's eyes flashed with murderous intent when he heard the old goat and the white dragon horse. He said coldly, "You're courting death. Go. Kill these 3 bastards and bring that woman back." Boom. As the black-robed young man pointed at Ling Xiao, the white dragon horse, and the old goat, the dozen green-faced, ferocious-looking zombies pounced on Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's eyes turned cold. He didn't expect the black-robed young man to have designs on Jin Se. He said coldly, "Kill these zombies. Capture this guy alive." All right. The old goat and the white dragon horse laughed coldly when they heard Ling Xiao's words. Their eyes were filled with malicious intent. Boom. The old goat used the sky-devouring secret skill, and the surrounding aura of death gathered around him. Instantly, a blazing sky-devouring fire rose from his body and enveloped the zombies. The sky-devouring fire was a fire of extreme yang. It was the perfect counter to these zombies. Moreover, the old goat's cultivation was much higher than theirs. It was as easy as cutting vegetables. These zombies were strong and invulnerable. They didn't fear death. However, under the burning of the sky-devouring fire, they roared and were quickly reduced to ashes. Ugly monsters, have a taste of my Pegasus meteor fist. The white dragon horse also let out a strange cry. It turned into a flash of white lightning, and used its extreme speed to kick the zombies. In front of the white dragon horse's extreme speed, the zombies were like turtles. They were indescribably slow. Bang. Although the zombies were invulnerable, the Pegasus meteor fist of the white dragon horse could even kill a titled supreme being. Even a supreme true dragon was dizzy from the Pegasus meteor fist's kick. How could these zombies withstand it? It was as if the white dragon horse was smashing a watermelon. The heads of the zombies exploded as they were all killed by the white dragon horse. Almost in the blink of an eye, the zombies around the black-robed youth were all killed. The black-robed young man was dumbfounded. He didn't expect that those 2 fellows who looked like human mounts would be so cruel, instantly leaving him all alone. "Bastards, I'm going to kill you." By the time the black-robed youth reacted, all the zombies had been killed. The old goat and the white dragon horse were staring at the black-robed youth with malicious intent. The black-robed young man was enraged. The deathly aura around him rose. The black divine light was like lightning. It contained a pure destructive aura. He pulled out an ancient sword from his back. Instantly, a black sword aura rose. The light was dazzling, like a long black river. It covered the sky and pressed down on the old goat and the white dragon horse. "This is the ancient Mizar sword?" Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he finally recognized the ancient sword in the black-robed youth's hand. It was actually the sun-opening ancient sword that he had bestowed upon his 6th disciple, Lugichen. The sun-opening ancient sword had fallen into the black-robed youth's hand. It seemed that he must know the whereabouts of Lugichen and the rest. Boom. A light flashed in the old goat's hand. The demon saint's scepter contained an unparalleled divine power. It suddenly collided with the sun-opening ancient sword in the black-robed youth's hand, causing a bright light to shine. The black-robed young man was instantly sent flying by the unparalleled divine power. However, before he could stabilize himself, the wretched white dragon horse appeared behind him and smashed down with its hooves. Suddenly, the black-robed young man felt dizzy and his vision darkened. He felt as if his head was about to explode. "Bastard, who told you to be arrogant and show off?" The white dragon horse had succeeded in its attack. How could it stop now? The cooperation between it and the old goat was superb. Immediately, a few more Pegasus meteor fists were smashed. The black-robed youth's eyes rolled back and he fainted. "Bring him along. Let's go up that mountain and have a look." Ling Xiao couldn't be bothered to interrogate the black-robed youth. He directly gave the order and flew up the mountain with Jin Se. This guy's identity in the Deathkin was probably not simple. He might have already attracted the attention of those old monsters. If such a young guy had the cultivation of a titled supreme, those old monsters of the Deathkin must be powerhouses above the god level. Ling Xiao wasn't afraid of fighting with the Deathkin. However, he still wanted to take a look at the place that Jin Se mentioned to see what was going on. Whoosh! Ling Xiao and Jin Se quickly arrived at the top of the mountain. Black and white qi filled the air, exuding an extremely mysterious aura. The flowers and trees here seemed to be filled with the aura of life and death. "Brother Ling Xiao, the coffin of the path understanding tree should be in that cave." Jin Se looked around, and then her eyes lit up. She pointed at a cave halfway up the mountain and said, "That cave spewed out black and white qi. Bright light filled the air, and exuded a mysterious phenomenon." Ling Xiao could feel that the power of life and death had reached a very mysterious balance there. The power of life and death that spewed out of the cave was not inferior to the power of life and death of the Netherworld's sacred river. It was incomparably pure. Ling Xiao even suspected that this cave might lead to the Netherworld's sacred river. Ling Xiao and Jin Se walked into the cave. The cave was incomparably spacious. After walking a few thousand feet, they saw a huge cave. It was like a yin-yang taiji diagram, containing a rich aura of life and death. "Brother Ling Xiao, the coffin that buried Lin Feng and the others is indeed gone." Jin Se looked at a stone platform in the middle of the cave with a sharp glint in her eyes. 10,000 years ago, Jin Southeast found this place and buried Lin Feng's group in a coffin, placing them here, in the Thousand Coffin Mountain. As long as the coffin was in place, it would merge with the aura of life and death and the laws of heaven and earth. Almost no one dared to touch the coffin in the Thousand Coffin Mountain. Otherwise, something ominous would happen. That was why Jin Se was assured to leave the coffin here. This was also what the feng shui families called the best place in feng shui. It could nourish the soul, refine the body, maintain life, and even bring the dead back to life. But today, as Jin Se had predicted, the coffin had disappeared. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed coldly. If the coffin disappeared, it was very likely that it had something to do with the Deathkin. He stared at the unconscious black-robed youth and said coldly, "Wake him up." "Okay." Chapter 11:10. The black-robed youth slowly woke up. Seeing the goat and horse faces in front of him, he immediately flew into a rage. He wanted to resist, but with a clang, a large machete was placed on his neck. The machete emitted a sharp light. "Kid, you better behave yourself. Otherwise, I'll make sure you can't even be a dead man." The white dragon horse had gotten the machete from God knows where, and looked like a ruffian. He stared at the black-robed youth and said proudly. Although the black-robed youth was arrogant, he knew that he was now a prisoner. He ignored the white dragon horse and old goat and stared at Ling Xiao. "Who are you?" "The Thousand Coffin Mountain is the territory of the undead clan. If you dare to hurt me, all of you will die here. I'll only ask you one question. If your answer satisfies me, I don't mind sparing your life. Where did the coffin go?" Ling Xiao stared at the black-robed youth and said coldly. "The coffin here? You. Who are you people? How did you know there was a coffin here?" The black-robed youth's expression changed as he stared at Ling Xiao. "This is a coffin. I placed it here 10,000 years ago. If I'm not wrong, It's probably in the hands of the undead clan, right? Jin Sei's gaze was calm, but it seemed to have the power to see through people's hearts. The black-robed youth could not help but tremble. You left it here? You're the woman who injured grandfather 10,000 years ago? You're still alive? The black-robed youth's eyes revealed a trace of disbelief. He once heard from his grandfather that a human woman entered the Thousand Coffin Mountain 10,000 years ago and wanted to bury a coffin. In the end, she fought with his grandfather and even injured him. Now 10,000 years had passed. That human woman was not dead and had come here again. The black-robed youth knew that something big was about to happen. However, looking at the murderous gazes of Ling Xiao and the rest, he knew that if he did not say anything, he would not be able to survive today. That coffin is indeed in the hands of the undead clan. If you let me go, I can go back and beg grandfather to return that coffin to you. The black-robed youth rolled his eyes and said slowly, bang. Without warning, the white dragon horse kicked the black-robed young man's head again, causing him to see stars. His head turned black, and he almost fainted. Kid, are you messing with us? Do you really think we're stupid if we let you go? You dare to play mind games with me? Do you believe that I will chop you to death? The white dragon horse glared at the black-robed youth with its big eyes. The black-robed youth hated the old goat and the white dragon horse to death. He gritted his teeth and wished he could tear these two bastards into pieces. However, he still forced a smile and said, My grandfather is the third elder of the Deathkin. Don't worry, as long as I go back and beg my grandfather, he will definitely return that coffin to you. No need, your grandfather should be here already. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he sensed several powerful auras coming from the depths of the myriad coffins mountain, appearing above the mountain. What bullshit death clan? They're just a bunch of living dead who have been tainted by the chi of life and death. Ling Xiao, let's go out and kill them all, then save Lin Feng and the rest. The old goat's eyes flashed with murderous intent as he sneered. That powerful aura contained a thick chi of death without any signs of life. Moreover, it exuded a cold murderous intent and rage. It should be the Deathkin. Let's go. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he walked out of the cave with Jin Sei. Outside the cave, more than 10 powerful figures appeared. The leader was an old man in a black robe. His face was old, and his eyes were deep and cold. He wore an ancient robe that looked a little shabby, as if it was the robe of some sect. He exuded a vast and terrifying aura, and his murderous intent locked onto Ling Xiao and the rest. The black-robed old man was a godly spirit realm expert. He exuded a powerful aura and exuded a powerful law fluctuation, as if the surrounding void was trembling slightly. The figures behind him were all zombies with green faces and fangs, but they were much stronger than the zombies that the black-robed youth had brought. It's you. The black-robed old man saw Jin Sei beside Ling Xiao at a glance, and his eyes were filled with shock. The black-robed old man was the black-robed youth's grandfather, the third elder of the Deathkin. He was the Deathkin expert that was injured by Jin Sei 10,000 years ago. He did not expect that Jin Sei would come here again after 10,000 years. As if he thought of something, the black-robed old man's eyes turned cold. Let go of my grandson, and I'll let you leave. The black-robed old man stared at Jin Sei and Ling Xiao coldly. You know why we're here. Hand over the coffin that I left here, and we'll spare his life. Otherwise you'll all die. Jin Sei glanced at the black-robed old man, and said calmly as if she was stating a fact. Arrogant. The black-robed old man's eyes darkened instantly, and he sneered. This is the Deathkin. You have no right to negotiate. Not to mention that I've never seen your coffin. Even if I did, everything in this Thousand Coffin Mountain belongs to the Deathkin. Old thing, you're really shameless. Your grandson admitted that you took the coffin. And you're still lying through your teeth? Do you believe that I'll chop your grandson to death? The white dragon horse glanced at the black-robed old man, and its machete left a bloody mark on the black-robed youth's neck. Stop. The black-robed old man's veins were bulging, and his eyes flashed with a glint. He wanted nothing more than to kill the white dragon horse and Ling Xiao, but the black-robed youth was in their hands, and he was hesitant. Grandpa, save me. The black-robed youth saw the black-robed old man, and his eyes were filled with agitation, and he began to shout for help. The The black-robed old man stared at Ling Xiao and Jin Se, and said, "Let go of my grandson. Don't forget, this is the Thousand Coffin Mountain, the territory of the Deathkin. If you hurt him, all of you will die. As for the coffin you mentioned, it is indeed in the Deathkin, but I can't make the decision." The black-robed old man finally compromised. It seemed that this grandson of his held a high position in his heart. Ling Xiao was also a little surprised. These Deathkin were like the living dead, and it was difficult for them to leave the Thousand Coffin Mountain. They relied on the dense death energy to survive, and it was a very strange state. Ling Xiao did not expect them to have the same intelligence as humans, and even emotions. Then what's the point of talking? I'll let you make the decision. Chapter 11:11. All right. Just you wait. Although the black-robed old man's expression was ugly, he still did as he was told for the sake of his grandson's life. He took out an incense stick and lit it up. Smoke curled up and emitted a strange fluctuation. Then, the void began to tremble. Rumble. Black death aura surged and the void in all directions shook violently. An ancient and mysterious fluctuation spread out. Crack. The void instantly shattered, and a huge black coffin appeared out of thin air, exuding an incomparably vast divine might. Moreover, there were several black-robed old men around it, and behind them were over 100 green-faced, ferocious-looking zombies. Those black-robed old men were the same as the black-robed old man in front of him. They were all divine spirit realm experts. What caught Ling Xiao's attention the most was the black coffin. The aura emitted from the black coffin made Ling Xiao feel a sense of danger. Buzz. The black coffin slowly opened, and an old man in a Taoist robe and holding a horsetail whisk sat up. He looked like a baby and had a sage-like demeanor. He wore a feathered crown and looked very pale. When he opened his eyes, it was as if the gates of hell had opened. They contained a mysterious light that could steal one's soul, causing people to feel as if they were about to unconsciously fall into them. Mo Tong. Why did you alarm the patriarch with the soul-luring incense? The old man in a Taoist robe was the patriarch of the Deathkin. Beside him, a black-robed old man asked expressionlessly. Mo Tong quickly bowed to the old man in a Taoist robe in the black coffin. He smiled bitterly and said, "Patriarch, I had no choice. These two humans forced my grandson, Mo Tianlin, to hand over the coffin that was left here 10,000 years ago. I had no choice but to ask the patriarch to come out. The coffin here." Mo Tong's words caused many of the Deathkin elders' expressions to change. They revealed a cold killing intent. Even the patriarch, Mo Hun's eyes flashed sharply. Presumptuous. Everything in this Thousand Coffin Mountain belongs to the Deathkin. I'd like to see who dares to steal from the Deathkin. So what if the black coffin was left behind 10,000 years ago? It already belongs to the Deathkin now. They can't be so presumptuous here. Patriarch, this person trespassed into the Deathkin's sacred ground. He deserves to die. Kill them. The elders of the Deathkin were filled with killing intent. Their eyes were filled with cold sharpness as they stared at Ling Xiao and the others. They even surrounded Ling Xiao and the others, as if they were going to attack Ling Xiao and the others at any moment. The patriarch of the death race, Mo Hun, glanced indifferently at Ling Xiao and Jin Se. The coffins here already belong to the death race. I can spare your lives today. Let go of Tianlin and leave quickly. The old goat and the white dragon horse were so angry that they laughed. They had clearly admitted that the coffins were taken by them, yet they still shamelessly claimed that everything in the Thousand Coffins Mountain belonged to them. They even pretended that Fong Lingxiao and the others had left. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen such a shameless person. You bunch of old farts, I'll tell you one more time. Hand over the coffin, or I'll let you Deathkin die again. However, if he dies this time, his soul will be completely destroyed and he will never be able to come back to life again. The old goat sneered and pointed at the Deathkins. Ling Zhao's gaze was cold. Although he did not say anything, the old goat's words were what he meant. The so-called Deathkin should be the corpses of those ancient powerhouses. After being soaked in the Thousand Coffins Mountain for countless years, new intelligence was born in the corpses, and these guys formed a new race. Although these guys were very strong and had inherited the powerful strength of those corpses, they were already new living beings. Ling Xiao did not expect them to be so arrogant as to say that everything in the Thousand Coffins mountain belonged to them. Ling Xiao also wanted to teach these arrogant guys a lesson. Looks like you're not willing to let Tianlin go? If that's the case, then all of you can go to hell. Emo Tong, kill them. Patriarch Emo Hun said indifferently. There was no emotion in his eyes. He looked at Ling Xiao and the others as though they were ants that he could crush with a wave of his hand. Yes. Emo Tong and the other 3 black-robed elders walked out and surrounded Ling Xiao and the others. Their bodies emitted a powerful aura. Although Emo Tong's expression was ugly and he was worried about his grandson's life, he could only obey the patriarch's order. Moreover, he believed that if the 4 of them attacked at the same time, they might be able to save Emo Tianlin at lightning speed. You're courting death. Ling Xiao's expression also turned cold. This group of old deathkins, did they really think that they could do whatever they wanted just because they were deities? Unfortunately, the current war god's world was no longer what they imagined. Dragon Horse, protect Jinsei. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Then he grabbed Emo Tianlin's neck with one hand and walked toward the 4 deities. Before Ling Xiao's physical body became a deity, he could already kill a deity, let alone now. The old goat and the white dragon horse stood guard beside Jinsei. There was a hint of mockery in their eyes. These shameless things were finally going to kick an iron plate. What are you doing? Let go of Tianlin. When Emo Tong saw Ling Xiao's cold gaze, his entire body shuddered. He suddenly had a bad premonition, and he hurriedly shouted out loud. Boom! In Ling Xiao's palm, the sky-devouring fire rose instantly. It was blazing hot and contained the power of Yang. It directly enveloped Emo Tianlin. Ah! Grandfather, save me! Emo Tianlin's scream was heard. It was like a ghost wailing and a wolf howling, making an incomparably miserable sound. Speaking of the Deathkin, they all relied on the rich death energy to live a second life. Fire and thunder, these extreme yang and unyielding powers, were the bane of their existence. Emo Tianlin was enveloped by the sky-devouring fire. It was like adding oil to the fire, and instantly began to burn fiercely. Bastard, I'm going to kill you. Emo Tong's eyes instantly turned red. His whole body trembled. His eyes were filled with monstrous rage and killing intent. He flew across the sky and blasted a punch toward Ling Xiao. Rumble. The black divine light was dazzling. This punch contained an extremely sinister power, as if it wanted to completely destroy a person's vitality and primordial spirit. Emo Tong's deity realm power completely erupted. You're courting death. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with killing intent. He did not dodge and directly blasted a punch toward Emo Tong. Boom. The golden glow was dazzling. The divine light around Ling Xiao's body exploded, dispersing the black death chi that filled the sky. The golden fist was incomparably ferocious, containing a monstrous power. At this moment, Ling Xiao's cultivation aura had also completely erupted. What? Emo Tong's body trembled. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He did not expect Ling Xiao to be a deity. Moreover, this punch contained a power that made him feel incomparably fearful. Kacha! The 2 fists collided. Emo Tong's arm was instantly blasted away by Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's punch did not lose its momentum. Its speed was extremely fast and suddenly blasted on Emo Tong's chest. Emo Tong's chest actually cracked like a mirror and spread in all directions. Then with a loud bang, it exploded into pieces. The insufferably arrogant Deathkin Elder, a deity expert, was killed by Ling Xiao with a punch. Chapter 11-12. Boom. Ling Xiao was surrounded by a golden glow, exuding a majestic fluctuation of divinity. His vitality surged and turned into the shape of a dragon, coiling around him. It was vivid and lifelike, making Ling Xiao look like a peerless dragon god. His gaze was calm and indifferent. Almost in an instant he killed Emo Tong with one punch. Before the other 3 Deathkin elders could react, Emo Tong's body was already gone. Their eyes were filled with disbelief, and they instantly retreated. Their eyes were full of vigilance as they stared at Ling Xiao. How is this possible? The three Deathkin elders were extremely shocked. Mo Tong was considered a powerhouse among the Deathkin. How could a deity be killed just like that? Mo Tong's strength was similar to theirs. If Ling Xiao could kill Mo Tong, did that mean that Ling Xiao could easily kill them? They could feel that Ling Xiao was exuding a powerful divine aura. He was clearly a deity powerhouse. However, for millions of years, the gate of the divine realm had been closed. No one in the mortal world should have been able to become a deity. How could this guy in front of them be a deity? Becoming a deity physically? You actually took this path? The Deathkin clan leader, Mo Hun, originally looked indifferent. However, after Ling Xiao killed Mo Tong with one punch, he could no longer remain calm. His eyes were filled with horror. When he saw Ling Xiao's terrifying physical body, he seemed to have thought of something, and his voice trembled a little. Becoming a deity physically could be said to be invincible in the same realm. This realm in the ancient legends had actually appeared in front of them. Moreover, from the looks of it, Ling Xiao should only be in his 20s? To have such a terrifying cultivation at such a young age simply subverted Mo Hun's understanding. It's your turn. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed sharply, and he charged toward the other three Deathkin powerhouses. Boom. His body was crystalline, translucent, and dazzling as it emanated powerful fluctuations of divinity. Moreover, it seemed to be suffused with a layer of mysterious light that made him invincible and invincible. A casual punch of his practically possessed the might of his full-force strike from before he'd broken through. The golden fist print traversed the void and shrouded the three Deathkin elders. It contained a power that could crush everything. Stop. Mo Hun's expression changed. His eyes were filled with gloom and anger as he slammed his palm down at Ling Xiao. After knowing that Ling Xiao's body had become a god, he knew that the three Deathkin elders were definitely no match for Ling Xiao. If he still did not make a move, they would probably all die at Ling Xiao's hands. Rumble. But how could Ling Xiao stop just because of Mo Hun's words? This group of Deathkin was very arrogant and conceited. If he didn't beat them into submission, they would probably not hand over the coffin. Ling Xiao's fist came crashing down with extreme speed. The three Deathkin elders' faces changed drastically. They gritted their teeth and unleashed powerful attacks in an attempt to block Ling Xiao's punch. Three black divine lights soared into the sky. They were a sword ray, a saber aura, and a staff shadow. They respectively represented the strongest attacks of the three Deathkin elders. Their momentum was vast and terrifying, and they contained the power to crush everything. Crack. However, when the golden fist landed, its aura was vigorous and boundless, crushing everything in its path. The three beams of black divine light instantly shattered like paper. Ling Xiao's punch did not lose its momentum and slammed into the three Deathkin elders. As if struck by lightning, they spat out a mouthful of blood. Their auras instantly became extremely weak. The three divine spirit realm masters were so weak that they could not even withstand a single blow. At the same time, Mo Hun's eyes were blazing with murderous intent. He saw that Ling Xiao did not care about his attack at all, and wanted to suppress the three Deathkin elders. Suddenly, the black light in his palm became even more blazing. It was as if there was a ghostly wailing sound as it slammed toward Ling Xiao's back. This palm strike seemed to be silent, but it contained an extremely terrifying power. A sharp glint flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes, revealing a hint of mockery. He did not dodge and took Mo Hun's palm head-on. Rumble. Mo Hun's palm landed on Ling Xiao's back. Suddenly, a bright light burst out like a thunderbolt. A bright golden light rose from Ling Xiao's body, and the power contained in Mo Hun's palm began to melt like snow. Although it still landed on Ling Xiao's body in the end, at least 80% of the power was dissolved. Bang! A muffled sound rang out. Ling Xiao's entire body trembled violently, and then his body was knocked back more than a dozen steps before he could stabilize his figure. But Mo Hun's expression had already become incomparably ugly. Although the palm knocked Ling Xiao back more than a dozen steps, he could feel that the palm did not injure Ling Xiao at all. It only made him retreat. Ling Xiao's physical body seemed to contain a mysterious power that could dissolve all divine abilities and martial arts. It was almost comparable to the legendary invulnerability. Could it be that this physical body becoming a god was really so freakish? Mo Hun's heart also became incomparably solemn in an instant. As expected of the Deathkin clan's patriarch, your strength is indeed very strong. If I didn't guess wrongly, your current strength has probably already reached the peak of the divine spirit realm, right? Ling Xiao turned around, his eyes revealing a hint of sharpness. He also deliberately did not dodge just now because he wanted to see just how powerful his physical body was now. The result also surprised him very much. Even if Mo Hun did not use his full strength in that palm, it was at least 80 to 90% of his power. In the end, it did not hurt Ling Xiao. Physical body becoming a god, it was indeed terrifying to the extreme. Who exactly are you? Mo Hun stared at Ling Xiao and asked, finally beginning to face Ling Xiao seriously. Changsun sect Ling Xiao. The coffin that you took away has 7 of my disciples buried in it. As long as you hand it over, I can spare your life. Otherwise, the Deathkin can really all go to hell. Ling Xiao said indifferently. These Deathkin had regained their intelligence from the corpses of ancient powerhouses. Although they were hiding in the Thousand Coffin Mountain, they might have some connection with those ancient powerhouses. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Ling Xiao did not want to fall out with the Deathkin. But if they really refused a toast only to drink a forfeit, then they could not blame him. Changsun sect's Ling Xiao? You're that Ling Xiao who killed the War God Temple's War God, known as the #1 person in the world? The sky-devouring supreme from 10,000 years ago is indeed extraordinary. Sorry for the disrespect. Mo Hun's eyes flashed as he looked at Ling Xiao somewhat solemnly and said, I didn't expect that your Deathkin would also pay attention to the outside world situation. I dare not say that I'm the #1 person in the world, but hand it over. Ling Xiao said indifferently. We can hand over that coffin to you, but you have to give me 7 days to prepare. Chapter 11:13. He could sense that Ling Xiao was extremely powerful. Even if he went all out, he might not be able to hold Ling Xiao back. It was not a good thing to make such a powerful enemy out of nowhere. 7 days? Why 7 days? If the coffin is in your hands, hand it over now. Ling Xiao frowned. He felt that there was something fishy in Mo Hun's words and immediately sneered. You don't know. That coffin is made of the divine wood of enlightenment and has already merged with the life and death chi of the Thousand Coffin Mountain. The 7 people in the coffin are connected. If the coffin is opened rashly, I'm afraid it will harm their lives. I need 7 days to sever the connection between them and the laws of the Thousand Coffin Mountain. This is for their own good. Mo Hun sighed softly and said slowly, Is that true? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed sharply as he looked at Mo Hun indifferently. Really? I only need 7 days. After 7 days, I will hand them over to you. Mo Hun said with certainty. Since that's the case, then let me see them first. As long as I can confirm that they are fine, what's the harm in giving you 7 days? Ling Xiao said indifferently with a cold smirk on his face. Fellow Taoist Ling, the coffin can't be opened and you can't see them. You only need to wait for 7 days. Why are you in such a hurry? Mo Hun sighed softly. Seeing Mo Hun shirking, the old goat sneered and said, Old man, you're so evasive. I think you have a ghost in your heart, right? If you don't have a ghost, why do you insist on making us wait for 7 days? That's right, my second brother is right. Old man, hurry up and hand it over. Otherwise, my big brother will annihilate your undead race. The white dragon horse held a blade of grass in its mouth and looked at Mo Hun from the corner of its eyes. Ling Xiao also felt that there was something fishy about the 7 days mentioned by Mo Hun. Could it be that these undead race fellows wanted to take advantage of these 7 days to escape? At this moment, an old voice sounded in the void. Ling Xiao, if you really give him 7 days, then those few beloved disciples of yours will probably turn into calabashes. Rumble. A black mist rose up from the void, and a bright light shone. An old man appeared in the void. He was wearing a shabby Taoist robe and looked dirty all over. He had shifty eyes and a goatee. However, his eyes were filled with a cold sneer. His entire body exuded an incomparably powerful aura. He was actually also a deity expert. You are Lu Tongtian. There was a look of disbelief in Ling Xiao's eyes. The old man in front of him was actually Lu Tongtian, whom he had met before. Lu Jianyi had been following this old man since the beginning. Seeing Lu Tongtian suddenly appear here today, Ling Xiao's eyes were also filled with confusion. Furthermore, he was able to sense that Lu Tongtian must have hidden his cultivation before. Now Lu Tongtian's entire body was filled with the aura of life and death. He looked like a deathkin cultivator, but he did not seem to be completely dead. It was very strange. When Emo Hun saw Lu Tongtian, his expression changed drastically. He pointed at Lu Tongtian and roared, "Lu Tongtian, what nonsense are you talking about?" "I'm talking nonsense? Hee Emo Hun, don't think I don't know. You captured Ling Xiao's 7 disciples to refine the 7 demons' gourd, right? I know you have obtained the ancient demon seed. You used the essence, blood and primordial spirit of Ling Xiao's disciples to nourish the 7 demons' gourd. I'm afraid the 7 demons' gourd will be completely mature in another 7 days, right? At that time, with the 7 demons' gourd in hand, not to mention Ling Xiao, I'm afraid even a true god is no match for you." Lu Tongtian looked at Emo Hun and sneered. His eyes were full of ridicule. "What?" Ling Xiao's expression changed. His eyes instantly revealed an extremely cold, killing intent. Although he did not know what the 7 demons' gourd was, he heard what Lu Tongtian said. Emo Hun actually wanted to use Lin Feng and the others to refine a magic weapon? Ling Xiao's heart was suddenly filled with rage. Moreover, when he saw Emo Hun's expression, he knew that Lu Tongtian's words were probably true. "Emo Hun, you deserve to die." Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with killing intent as he charged towards Emo Hun. "Damned Lu Tongtian, I'll definitely kill you. Ling Xiao, listen to me. I'll borrow your disciples to refine the 7 demons' gourd, but only their primordial spirits and flesh. I won't harm their lives." Emo Hun still wanted to make a final explanation. He did not want to be enemies with Ling Xiao. "Kill." Ling Xiao simply spat out a word. His fist imprint was unparalleled, containing a monstrous killing intent as it charged towards Emo Hun. "Ling Xiao, do you really think I'm afraid of you?" Emo Hun's eyes flashed sharply. Seeing that Ling Xiao was actually so aggressive, his heart was instantly filled with true anger. Rumble. Black death aura pervaded around him. The horsetail whisk in his hand fell towards Ling Xiao. It was like a heavenly river of 3,000 feet falling. Strands of whisk flew across the sky, containing an extremely tenacious power, as if they were going to entangle Ling Xiao. Whoosh! Ling Xiao's figure flashed like a golden lightning. He was extremely fast and instantly dodged the power of the horsetail whisk. His fist imprint blasted towards Emo Hun. Emo Hun's eyes also flashed with killing intent. Ling Xiao's coercion had also stimulated the battle intent in his heart. He also threw out a punch. Bang! A muffled sound came from the void. Ling Xiao's figure did not change, but Emo Hun was sent flying by his punch. Death Soul Realm, kill for me. Black light rose around Emo Hun's body. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. He roared angrily, and the surrounding black death aura pervaded. The murderous aura rose as if it had formed a black sea. Dead spirits with terrifying auras walked out from the sea. Those dead spirits were shrouded in pure death aura, as if they were death gods from the netherworld. They suddenly pounced on Ling Xiao. Emo Hun's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. The Death Soul Realm was one of his most powerful techniques. The death spirits within it were endless, and each of them had the combat strength of a god. Even if he had to wear Ling Xiao down, he would wear him down. He knew that Ling Xiao's physical body was too terrifying and invulnerable. If he continued to fight, he was afraid that he would suffer a great loss. That was why he wanted to use the Death Soul Realm to deal with Ling Xiao. Boom! Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with killing intent. He threw a punch across the sky and landed on the body of a death spirit. That death spirit suddenly trembled violently and suddenly exploded into a death aura, enveloping Ling Xiao. The death aura was like a corpse that had a strong devouring power. It especially liked the flesh and blood of living creatures, as if it wanted to devour Ling Xiao's flesh and blood completely. Boom! The heaven-devouring fire rose from Ling Xiao's body. It contained an extremely hot energy, and with a sweep of the chi of death, it was instantly incinerated. However, those death spirits seemed to be extremely intelligent. They easily escaped from the devouring fire, and then condensed into the appearance of a death spirit in the void, pouncing towards Ling Xiao. Chapter 11:14. Boom. Ling Xiao's body glowed brightly, and a dazzling golden glow illuminated the surroundings. Dragon-shaped phantoms coiled around him, and a vast dragon's roar erupted. 10,000 dragons god-slaying technique kill. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed sharply, and a fist pressed down on Mo Hun. After his physical body became a god, Ling Xiao's ancestral dragon secret technique naturally cultivated to the divine dragon body. Although it was only the initial condensation, and couldn't even be considered a small success, the power of the 10,000 dragons god-slaying technique was more than several times stronger. 49 seven-colored divine dragons intertwined with each other and enveloped Ling Xiao's fist. It was like a mountain of primordial divine dragons that suddenly pressed down. What? Feeling the dragon's might emanating from Ling Xiao's body, Mo Hun's eyes were also shocked, and his entire body trembled. The Death Soul domain trembled violently. Under Mo Hun's urging, hundreds of dead spirits condensed from the Black Sea and suddenly pounced toward Ling Xiao. Boom. Golden divine light shrouded down, and Ling Xiao's entire body seemed to have turned into a divine dragon. He was unparalleled, and the dead spirits were all turned into dust under his fist. The power of the 10,000 dragons god-slaying technique was incomparably terrifying. It almost pushed Ling Xiao's physical body to the limit at this moment, and suddenly blasted toward Mo Hun. This punch was incomparably fierce, and it completely locked onto Mo Hun, making it impossible for him to dodge even if he wanted to. Crack. The golden light in the void blazed, and Mo Hun gritted his teeth. His entire body actually exploded in the void in an instant, turning into a cloud of black mist. Ling Xiao's punch blasted into the void, and even affected a mountain in the distance, directly causing the mountain to tremble violently and almost collapse. Whoosh! The black mist spread and instantly condensed into Mo Hun's appearance, but his eyes were filled with an incomparably solemn expression. Ling Xiao, you've gone too far. Mo Hun's gaze was gloomy, and a murderous aura rose from his body. He stared fixedly at Ling Xiao, and the black light behind him spread. His entire body began to tremble violently. Behind him, the divine light condensed and actually turned into a black vortex in an instant. Its speed was extremely fast, and it suddenly pressed toward Ling Xiao's glabella. God-devouring technique. As Mo Hun shouted these two words, the black vortex contained a majestic yuan spirit power that seemed to want to swallow all the yuan spirit fluctuations. Mo Hun knew that Ling Xiao's physical body had become a god, but he had not entered the god realm. Therefore, his primordial spirit had not transformed, so he directly used the spirit-devouring technique that targeted the primordial spirit, wanting to directly devour Ling Xiao's primordial spirit. God-devouring technique? You overestimate yourself. Ling Xiao laughed coldly, his eyes filled with disdain. Boom. Dazzling light sprang up above his head as the King Heaven Devourer cauldron appeared, pulsing with mysterious fluctuations that surrounded Ling Xiao. The King Heaven Devourer cauldron shone with dazzling light, stirring up the Black Death energy in the area, creating a vortex that began devouring everything in the area. The God-devouring art and the Heaven Devourer cauldron were locked in a stalemate. With the King Heaven Devourer cauldron there, the God-devouring technique had no way of entering Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness, much less devour his nascent divinity. Furthermore, Ling Xiao could sense that the power of the God-devourer cauldron was very similar to that of the King Heaven Devourer cauldron. In fact, it was almost as if he could see the Heaven-devouring God sea. So, it's an incomplete version of the Heaven Devourer secret technique? Ling Xiao's eyes flickered as he realized that the God Devourer art was actually a part of the Heaven Devouring God sea. However, for some reason, it had fallen into Mo Hun's hands. Ruiyuambul. After a moment of stalemate, the God Devourer art was at a disadvantage. After all, it was only an incomplete version of the technique, and was quickly destroyed by the King Heaven Devourer cauldron. What? Mo Hun blurted, a look of disbelief on his face. Not even the god-devourer art could do anything to Ling Xiao. Filled with the desire to flee, he blurred into motion and shot off into the distance. As for the 3 Deathkin elders and the numerous zombies, they dispersed in an uproar. Their speed was extremely fast, and they soon disappeared into the Black Death Chi. Ling Xiao, stop chasing me. Come with me. I know where the 7 Banes gourd is. Ling Xiao was just about to chase after Mo Hun when Lu Tongtian stopped him. I don't want the 7 Banes gourd. I only want my 7 disciples. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed sharply as he stared at Lu Tongtian. I know, but the 7 Banes gourd is your 7 disciples. Hurry up and come with me. Otherwise, Mo Hun might do something desperate and destroy the gourd. That would be troublesome. Lu Tongtian said to Ling Xiao. Fine. I'll trust you this time. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. Considering how Lu Tongtian had treated Lu Jiani with sincerity, he would trust him this time. Ling Xiao and Jin Se followed Lu Tongtian into the depths of the Myriad Coffins Mountains. Lu Tongtian, what's your relationship with the death folk? You're not in cahoots with Mo Hun, are you? As they flew, the old goat looked suspiciously at Lu Tongtian. I have nothing to do with those bastards. But I know a lot about the death folk. Don't worry, they want nothing more than to kill me. How could I possibly be in cahoots with them? Lu Tongtian pursed his lips. Then how do you know so many things? What's the 7 Banes gourd? And why did they capture Lin Feng and the rest? The old goat asked like a curious baby. This was also the question in Ling Xiao's heart, so he also looked at Lu Tongtian. Lu Tongtian sighed softly and said, The Myriad Coffins Mountains are very vast. This old man has also stayed in the Myriad Coffins Mountains for countless years, and had many conflicts with those bastards who call themselves the Death Folk. The Path Understanding Tree is a rare natural spiritual root in the world. The Path Understanding Tree was used to create a coffin and sealed 7 people inside at the same time. Moreover, it was placed in a place of balance between life and death. After 10,000 years of immersion in the life and death chi, the 7 people in the coffin could even be said to be brothers of the same blood. Their hearts were connected and their blood merged. Even if they weren't brothers of the same blood, they were closer than brothers of the same blood. Therefore, the flesh and blood of the 7 people contained a strange life and death origin that could nurture a supreme treasure like the 7 Demons gourd. The 7 Demons gourd was also a natural demonic seed. A single vine produced 7 gourds. These gourds were all natural treasures. If refined, they could be comparable to legendary sacred weapons. They contain the origin of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, yin and yang. They formed their own space and could suck people in and turn them into pus. Its power was incomparably terrifying. A few decades ago, I accidentally discovered the 7 Demons gourd planted by the death folk. I wanted to completely destroy it, but I didn't expect to alarm Mo Hun and the others. In the end, I could only snatch Lu Jiani away. Without Lu Jiani, their speed of nurturing the 7 Demons gourd slowed down a lot. However, I suspect that they have other methods, so the 7 days was just an excuse. If the 7 Demons gourd really matures after 7 days, then even if your body is a god, I'm afraid you won't be able to withstand the power of the 7 Demons gourd. You'll be turned into a puddle of pus. Then it'll be over. Lu Tongtian roughly explained the information about the 7 Demons gourd. Ling Xiao finally understood why he saw Lu Tongtian and Lu Jiani in Heaven's Choice City. Ling Xiao looked at Lu Tongtian and asked, Why does it seem like Jiani has been reborn and can't remember his previous life? Chapter 11:15. Lu Tongtian sighed softly and said, Some of the people sealed in the 1,000 Coffin Mountain will be tainted by the aura of death and become part of the death race. Some can even change their fate and be reborn. As for your 7 disciples, they have been shrouded by the aura of life and death for 10,000 years. In addition to the mysterious effects of the Path Understanding Tree, it is no different from being reborn. It can be said that they have regained their youth. However, their true spirits and memories of their previous lives are now in the 7 Evils gourd. If you want to completely recover their memories, you must obtain the 7 Evils gourd. The death race really deserves to die. Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Soon they passed through countless mountain ranges and stopped in front of a mountain that was 10,000 feet tall. This mountain was pitch black and looked very strange. It looked like a giant coffin that was standing upright. It exuded a boundless aura of death. There were some strange plants on the mountain, as if they were born because of the aura of death. They looked gloomy and very strange. They planted the 7 evils gourd at the top of the mountain. There should be death race powerhouses guarding there. We should be careful. Lu Tongtian's eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. Obviously, he attached great importance to the death race. How many powerhouses are there in the death race? What level is Mo Hun at? Ling Xiao asked. Lu Tongtian said, I'm not very clear about the exact number of powerhouses in the death race. However, I know one thing. Mo Hun is definitely not the strongest powerhouse in the death race. There should be an old monster in the death race who is even stronger than Mo Hun. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. Even stronger than Mo Hun? Could it be a true God Realm powerhouse? With Ling Xiao's current strength, it was impossible for him to be a true God Realm powerhouse. There were actually 10 small levels between the Divine Spirit Realm and True God Realm, just like the first level Supreme Realm to the 10th level Supreme Realm. However, the division was not so detailed. It was simply divided into early stage, middle stage, late stage, and perfect stage. Ling Xiao was probably at the early stage of the Divine Spirit Realm. In this mortal realm without Divine Dao Law, the power of the Divine Realm was also weakened. However, Ling Xiao was probably only able to fight with a perfect stage Divine Spirit Realm powerhouse. As for a true God Realm powerhouse, he was definitely not a match. Unless he unleashed the power of the life-reversing technique and the Age of Time again, he would probably die if he did that. One would not be so lucky every time if they wanted to break and rebuild, to defy the heavens and change their fate. On top of the mountain, Ling Xiao saw the Deathkin powerhouse. There were actually 10 Divine Spirit Realm experts among the Deathkin experts guarding this place, and this included Mo Hun, who had already arrived here in advance. In addition, Ling Xiao even felt a dangerous fluctuation. It was very likely that it was the hidden powerhouse of the Deathkin. On top of the mountain, Ling Xiao also saw the 7 evils gourd. It was a gourd vine with 7 colored light flowing around it. It looked dazzling and mysterious. There were 7 palm-sized gourds growing on it, each of which had a different color. Mysterious energy was flowing around them. Just as Lu Tongtian had said, it contained the power of yin-yang and 5 elements. The gourd vines were actually growing on the path understanding tree's coffin. One could vaguely see the vines absorbing and growing the blood-colored aura from the coffin. Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly turned red. In that coffin, there should be the other 6 disciples besides Lu Jianyi. These Deathkin people really deserve to die. They actually dared to use their flesh and blood to grow the 7 evils gourd. Who is it? How dare you trespass into the Deathkin's sacred place? You're courting death. It was a cold-looking middle-aged man in black armor. He held a dark golden spear in his hand. When he saw Ling Xiao and the others appear, his eyes flashed with murderous intent. His spear suddenly pierced towards Ling Xiao. Boom. The dark golden spear exuded a powerful and unparalleled power, as if it could pierce through everything. Its murderous aura soared, and its speed was extremely fast. Those who block me shall die. Ling Xiao's eyes were blazing with killing intent. At this moment, the killing intent in his heart rose to the extreme. These damned Deathkin people dared to use his disciples to grow the 7 evils gourd. At this moment, Ling Xiao only wanted to kill them all. Boom. Ling Xiao's palm chopped down with unparalleled sharpness. Like a blazing blade, it suddenly slashed on the dark golden spear. Crack. The dark golden spear was directly shattered. Then Ling Xiao's fist came through the air. The blazing fist print was incomparably terrifying. The cold-looking middle-aged man's face fell. Never could he have guessed that Ling Xiao would be this strong. Even Mo Hun, who had just arrived, didn't have a chance to say anything before Ling Xiao and the middle-aged man clashed. Boom. Ling Xiao's fist landed on the cold-looking middle-aged man's chest. The terrifying force of the fist exploded, containing a blazing killing intent. The middle-aged man was instantly blasted to smithereens. Under Ling Xiao's furious attack, No matter how strong the cold middle-aged man was, he still died at Ling Xiao's hands. Ling Xiao didn't let the cold-looking middle-aged man's nascent divinity and godhood go either. His King Heaven Devourer cauldron devoured them. How impudent, Ling Xiao! This is the holy land of the Deathkin. How dare you cause trouble here? Mo Hun's eyes blazed with killing intent, and the other Deathkin experts looked on in shock. Their killing intent surged as they locked onto Ling Xiao and the others. Impudent? You dare use my disciple to nourish the 7 demons' gourd? You really don't know the difference between life and death. Since that's the case, there's no need for the Deathkin to exist. Starting today, you'll all be wiped out. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with killing intent as he shot toward the Deathkin experts. Old goat, dragon horse, protect the coffin. Don't act rashly. Ling Xiao transmitted his orders to the old goat and dragon horse. Ling Xiao didn't trust Lu Tongtian, who knew if that old bastard had come for the 7 demons' gourd. So just in case, it was better to have the old goat and dragon horse stand guard. Rumble. Lightning flashed in the sky, and golden light swirled around Ling Xiao. His murderous aura surged, and his eyes were filled with cold killing intent as he locked onto Mo Hun and the other Deathkin experts. Dazzling fist imprints swept through the air, containing an invincible power that could sweep through anything. This was the power of a fleshly body godly ascension. Given Ling Xiao's profound accumulation, killing god spirits was as easy as slaughtering dogs. Get into formation. We must stop him. Mo Hun's eyes flashed with killing intent as he shouted. Rumble. The 8 god spirits beside Mo Hun instantly formed a battle formation under Mo Hun's command. Their divine power intertwined, and together with Mo Hun's power, they enveloped Ling Xiao. Boom. A blazing sword light slashed across the sky as if it contained the power of 9 great god spirits. This unknown battle formation allowed them to gather all of their power for every attack. They wanted to use the power of this battle formation to completely kill Ling Xiao. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.